point, and I'll start the live feed. Once you see the live feed, Maite, you're free to start. Give me a second.
And I was saying yes to those things, Maite, except I was muted.
I could tell you were saying yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ready when you're
Ready
ready.
to go? All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 11th Springs Municipal Advisory Council meeting. We're beginning this meeting at 6:31. And Karina, would you like to make the Spanish interpretation announcement?
Thank you, Chair Terry. Buenas tardes. Esta reunión cuenta con interpretación al español. Para acceder al canal en español, por favor, haga clic en el icono global a la parte baja a la derecha de su pantalla. Seleccione español o Spanish para escuchar esta reunión en español. Muchísimas gracias a Jordi, nuestro intérprete. Thank you, Chair Terry.
Thank you. And I just want to remind people that Jordi is an amazing interpreter and we are so lucky to have him. I see him smiling. So we just want to be sure that we slow down and allow him opportunity to interpret for us properly. He takes his craft very seriously and we want to give him the time that he needs to be able to interpret everything we're saying. So just a little reminder. And that's to me, because I speak very rapidly. So, all right. Vice Chair Perrott, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Member Jesus or Alcaraz?
Here.
Okay. Chair Member Lombard?
Here.
Chair Member, well, I'm here, Perrott. Maite, so we're missing Mary Carmen. Okay.
Yeah, we do have a quorum so we can vote on resolutions tonight. Okay. Just a reminder that we'll take public comment on items not on the agenda after we approve the minutes. So we will provide that time. Is there a motion are there any changes to the minutes from April 6th? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay.
We need to let Jesus have a chance to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There'll be lots of opportunities for that this evening.
Okay.
We'll hold that.
All right. We will take public comment on items not on the agenda. If people could please raise their hand so I can make sure that I'm allotting proper enough time. And it looks like right now we have one. So we'll have a 3-minute public comment.
Am I good to go?
You are good to go, Fred.
Thank you.
Actually give me a second. Or Chair Terry, would you like the timer on screen or would you like to keep track on your own?
Oh, I can do it on my own. Thank you for Fred, I will let you know.
Okay, I'll try to keep under 3. Thank you very much.
I know you will. Thank you.
I'm happy to put it on screen. I'm ready for it.
It's okay. I got it right now.
Got it.
Go ahead, Fred.
My comment has to do with the North Valley MAC made a declaration of Glen Ellen's sphere of influence. And to me, this appeared like a land use assertion based on what some there in the North Valley MAC feel is the identity of Glen Ellen residents. Part of the area in question there is in the Madrone Road area, which according to District R and maps that I studied for the county redistricting process, that area actually has a lot more in common with the Springs Latinx area than Glen Ellen. And that's backed up by census-based facts and data. The shape of the Springs Latinx area shows up on map after map as being from El Verano to Madrone Road, west of Highway 12 and east of Arnold Drive. And this area is one of shocking disparity with the surrounding areas. In my opinion, this area should not be split among MACs and should be in the Springs MAC. That's one opinion that I have here. That the North Valley MAC made such a sphere of influence declaration for Glen Ellen, basically of self-determination, indicates to me that the Springs MAC can do the same should anyone have any interest to put this on the agenda. I suggest to the Springs MAC considering a similar declaration of self-determination for the Springs Latinx community. Salient points being that the disadvantaged community status along critical socioeconomic, educational, and health indicators calls for special attention from the county to bring resources to bear to quickly level the playing field. On a suggestion, universal basic income, overcome the digital divide, tenant protections, and engagement by the city of Sonoma to take responsibility for its essential workers. My comments here is because I'm for solidarity with the Latinx immigrant community, and I see an opportunity for the Springs MAC to make some statements in that regard based upon the North Bay MAC's declaration of a sphere of influence. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Fred. We always appreciate your comments. Are there any other public comments at this time?
I don't see any further raised hands. I don't know if you want to do a countdown from 5 to 1 or 10 to 1.
We'll go with 5. We've got a long agenda. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, move on to the next item. Community announcements is, I see that we have one from Sandra Otter.
She is having a hard time getting on. She
Okay.
says she's clicked the link 3 times, and I sent it to her. I sent her the one on the county page, and for some reason she can't get on. She sent me what she wanted to say. If that's okay if I read it, I don't know.
Sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, great. So this is from Sandra Otter, and she is the president of the newly formed Springs Rotary. So she was going to say, good evening. I would like to thank you for allowing me to introduce you to the Rotary Club of Sonoma Springs. At the end of last year, a group of us gathered to see if there would be enough interest in starting a new Rotary Club in the Sonoma area. After 3 or 4 informational gatherings, it was determined that offering a Rotary Club with an evening meeting was of interest to enough people that we started the process of getting our Rotary International Charter. On January 17th, 2022, the Rotary Club of Sonoma Springs received its charter. At the time of our charter, we were a club of 30 members, and in the last 4 months, we've expanded to 36. We are currently gathering every 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month at the Real and Brand. After many surveys, it has been decided that we would like to focus our club's energy in helping Sonoma Springs with emphasis on the environment, food insecurity, and literacy, just to name a few. With this in mind, we've helped clean Larson Park and Creek. We've helped the Luz with tax returns. We have helped at the vaccination clinics, and we are currently going to be joining other Rotary clubs in the area to help clean up Jack London Park. There's an interest in finding other areas where help is desired within the Sonoma Springs area. So that's what she sent me. You can reach out to Sandra Otter. She didn't leave her contact info. I don't know if she wants me to share it, but you can reach out to me. I'm actually a member of the Rotary. So if anyone would like to reach out to me to get in contact with the Rotary or find out more, my contact is hperot@gmail.com, hperot@gmail.com, and happy to share more information.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Karina?
I don't see any more raised hands in the audience, but I have a public announcement, if I may.
I have one as well.
Okay.
You go first.
Gracias. Quiero hacer la invitación a nuestra comunidad de habla hispana a conectarse mañana a nuestra charla comunitaria. Como cada segundo jueves del mes, tenemos la charla comunitaria. En esta ocasión estaremos hablando sobre preparación ante incendios, prevención de incendios, al igual que cómo conocer su zona de evacuación. Por favor, conéctese. Es a través de Facebook Live en la página Charla Comunitaria Sonoma y patrocinado por la supervisora Susan Gorin. So that was just a quick announcement, invitation to connect to tomorrow's Charla Comunitaria, where we will be discussing the fire preparedness, how to identify your evacuation zone, and fire prevention. So tomorrow via Zoom, 6 o'clock, es a las 6 de la tarde. Gracias. Thank you, Rotary.
Thank you. Hannah, do you want to advertise your May 21st event?
We actually have Lucas with the
Okay.
fire, so
He'll
he's going
talk
to
about it
talk
then.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you.
So I want to mention that on May 22nd, Diamond A is running an evacuation drill, and they'll be gathering at Sonoma Valley High School as a temporary evacuation point. So just so folks know that the different neighborhoods are starting to do that work, and they are working on getting folks off the hill and down into the temporary evacuation point. And that would be at Sonoma Valley High School. And that's on May 22nd. Okay, I think we have any other community announcements. Supervisor Gorin, welcome. Do you have any community announcements you would want to include in this part?
Probably, but I hope that Karina has delivered them.
All right, thank you. We'll look forward to your update in a few minutes.
Great.
So Dana, I think, can you promote Dana? She's going to give us an update on Springs Emergency Preparedness Task Force and Map Your Neighborhood.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, we had a wonderful windy Saturday of a live in-person outreach at the Children's Day event at Hannah Boys Center. It was, like I said, a windy day, but it was good. We made lots of contacts. And I'm grateful to Map Your Neighborhood block leader and volunteer Iris for helping me woman our booth. I was in a dual role that day, so I really appreciate the support. Let's see what else we've got. We've got some exciting things coming up. I'm working on a draft letter for MAC support for some of the wish lists on our Connex inventory. Bigger things like shelving so we can properly store things. Just expanding our supplies as well. Let's see. We're always looking for new block leaders. If folks are interested, please contact me, mapyourneighborhood@sonomaecologycenter.org or 707-200-8134. And apart from Map Your Neighborhood, I'm also still working on the water quality testing project with Sonoma Ecology Center. If folks are interested in getting professional lab tested to see how their quality of water is, we're running testing. I still have a few tests left. You can contact me at the same information if you're interested. Looking for a few more tests to complete. And I think that's it for now, but the exciting things coming. There's some good events being planned, and hopefully next month we'll have some solid dates and for more community announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. And I owe you a text over the water testing. I saw it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have our next item is the Springs Fire Safe Council. And Lucas is here to share information with us. Welcome, Lucas. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Maitai, and committee and members of the public. So the Springs Fire Safe Council, as was mentioned at a previous meeting, has recently launched. Hannah and myself serve on the board of directors, and I'll put it out there right now that we are looking for other leaders to join us in this cause from Agua Caliente, El Verano, Fetters Hot Springs, and Boys Hot Springs. And on Saturday, May 21st, we're having our first community meeting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at El Verano School at the multipurpose room. And we ask that you register ahead of time just so we know how many people are coming, and live Spanish translation will be provided. So when you register, if somebody needs that assistance, they can register, and everything's in Spanish also on the registration page. Let's see, there are light refreshments to be provided. There will be tons of coffee and pastries and juice, so come hungry. And then there's also childcare available for ages 4+. And we request that you register stating that on the registration page so that we know that care is needed. And at this community meeting, this is basically the first opportunity for the public to weigh in on the community wildfire protection planning process. So this is kind of the keystone process that will establish a set of basically an assessment of what our wildfire risks are for our community, and then provide some direction on how to mitigate those risks and essentially develop some prioritized projects that come out of that. And it can help direct all sorts of work going forward by all sorts of different organizations, and can drive grant writing and grant awards to do projects in our area to make us more fire safe. So it's pretty important for the community to weigh in whatever way they feel comfortable. So the community meeting will be the first kind of live opportunity to do that. Oh, and it'll also be available over Zoom, I should say. So you can come either in person or it'll be over Zoom. And so it's really intended for community members that live in the Springs region, as well as business owners that operate businesses, any other organization that maybe has an office that's concerned about the safety of their office space and that sort of thing. So anyway, everybody is welcome. Everybody should come if they can. And if they can't, we'll find other opportunities for public engagement in the future.
And Lucas, can you quickly drop say the URL that everyone should go to, the tiny URL?
Yes. So it's tiny. Can I drop it in here?
No, we don't have chat. So just
okay.
You could say it slowly.
Okay. So it's tinyurl.com. So tinyurl.com/fire-safe-springs. And I provided the flyer as well that maybe can be shared afterwards. I don't know how that works.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. I really appreciate all the things that you're doing to make this a very inclusive event with the translation and childcare. That's awesome. So thank you very much. Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you. So chair update. As you have noticed, those of you who made it here today to the second Wednesday, we've been hopping around the calendar a bit, but we've landed on the second Wednesday of the month at 6:30. So thank you so much for being here. We were colliding with a couple of other meetings, so we wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to attend all the meetings that are offered during the month in Sonoma Valley and other places. So Zoom has made lots of things accessible. So we're really glad that you could be here today. The annual report, I promised a draft and we have one. So I want to say thank you to Hannah and Iris and Jesus and everybody who helped contribute to it. So Karina, I just want to check what you want to do. Do you want to share the report? Do you want us to read the whole thing, or people should have read it and can comment on it at this point?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yes, that is correct. The draft annual report was emailed to the council. In all fairness to them, it only gave them like a day and a half maybe to read it. So if you want to read it in the entirety, you can. Otherwise, the council can give you comments or approve as is to move forward.
Just a suggestion from me, the meeting is very long. I would encourage you not to read the report, but summarize it.
Oh, I'm happy to summarize. It's my superpower, Susan. I'm an excellent
yeah,
summarizer.
excellent. I knew you could do that. And just so that you know, it does appear on the board agenda, and other supervisors can read what you're doing. The other Macs have been a little more regular in reporting. So hooray for you, finally pulling it together.
All right. Well, you know, we're the Springs. So,
That's right.
So we did get our other one in last year. It's just a little late. All righty. So just in this report, we talked a little bit about our meetings and how they needed to be adjusted. We have mentioned who our membership is, our past and current, and that how many seats we have vacant. And we will discuss the SVCAC seat later on in the agenda. A little bit about our organizational year and the way our meetings have evolved. Also, we have a summary of all the reports that we have received and who we've received them from January through December and now January through April. And we've really received a diverse group of reporting from, we've had everything from COVID to transportation to evacuation, SDC, Portrait of Sonoma, LGBTQ connections, the SAFE committee, the SAFE team, NAMI, the library was here recently, redistricting. So the Madsons have reported to us, and then Chief Aker provides us with a quarterly report as well. So those are some of the reports we have received. We have written letters supporting the following resolutions: a SAFE team, and that went to the Board of Supervisors, a request to Caltrans about our improvement in traffic safety, also a letter supporting affordable housing and equitable options for SDC. We also supported letters for the Sonoma Valley Fire Department, and we adopted a letter writing policy in April 2022. The other thing that we started to do a little bit more of, which I'm very excited about, is we've started sponsoring more and more events. We were a sponsor of the Neighborhood Fest Vaccine Clinic, Dia de los Muertos, altars. Thanks to all the artists who made that happen. The Plaza Lighting, shout out to Artiscape on that one as well. Hannah ran 2 compost giveaways at Larson Park. I didn't get the date for the second one. Apologies on that. We were also in full force at Dia de los Niños on April 30th. And we have a town hall coming up to be determined, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that might look like. Our current ad hocs are, we have this Art in the Springs, which is expiring soon. We have our outreach and our community voice. The Art in the Springs, I'm also going to talk about in a little bit about what we've been up to there. So I won't give a lot of attention to that. We have our outreach and a fire preparedness. Jordy, am I doing okay? I'm gonna take a breath here for a second. Okay. Our fire preparedness support, we have had a lot of work has gone into our fire preparedness between Map Your Neighborhood and the Fire Safe Council. So the outreach team has put together a flyer. They've taken it around the springs. They've gone to a couple of meetings to recruit folks to come. They've done the compost. They are participating in the Rotary and established the Fire Safe Council with the intent of completing a community wildfire protection plan. Our emergency preparedness, we have an outline of month by month, all the wonderful things that they've been able to accomplish. We're training block leaders, communicating with organizations, participating in Neighborhood Fest, just a very lengthy list. The Connex trailer, getting locations identified as temporary evacuation points and possible shelters. And as you heard Dana talk about future work, that they're continuing to do good work in the area of emergency preparedness and building really a collaborative group of folks that they're working with. So in conclusion, we've, some of our highlights, I mentioned the Connex trailer, and that was a collaboration of the Red Cross, Catholic Charities, Sonoma Emergency Department. We've also have our ad hocs that are doing a lot of additional work, and we've been sponsoring events, and our resources are limited. And I think the things that we really want to focus on in the future are road safety, affordable housing, and then the minimal health and human services that are available in the Springs area, particularly in the area of mental health. So that's the summary of the report. And if there are any changes or comments at this point, we'll open it up to council. And then if there are any from the public, yes.
I would like to say that this is just a draft, correct?
Yes.
So there is room for improvement, but room for more stuff that we've done, right?
Yes.
I need to turn in my ad hoc report. I'm working on it. So I think that that there's some bullet points that can be added, and I just want to say that I did something big that during in January, I speak to around maybe 300, 400 people at San Leo's Catholic Church that know about us. It's just I think to continue being repetitive and continue talking to them in order for people to know about us and come reach us. And yes, I will send my ad hoc report. So.
Okay, thank you, Jesus. I will include it.
If
Karina?
Chair Turi, just a quick reminder for the council and for the public. You must submit your reports to Chair Turi, your final ad hoc reports by May 25th. And you are to approve the final draft at the June 8th meeting in order to make it to the July 12th Board of Supervisors meeting, as Supervisor Gorin mentioned. And that will keep you in timeline and you will be on time to submit your annual report.
Yes. So I need them before the 25th because I'll need it. So it would be lovely if I could have it by mid next week. I think by the 17th, 18th would be great because I need a little bit of time to incorporate it, because contrary to I'm actually quite a high achiever and want to make sure that it's right. So, okay. Any other comments from council? It's still, Karina, can council send me comments over the next course of the week?
Yes, again, you have another meeting, but at the next meeting, you have to approve the report.
Great. Hannah?
I didn't see this in my list of items from today, so my apologies if I overlooked it, but it was in that list that we got, that whole slew of things.
It should have been on there. If
Okay.
not, I can resend it.
Could you
to
just
all.
double check or send it to me? Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all. Thanks.
I'm in the same place. I was thinking it should be there and didn't see it, so. Thank you.
All right. So by mid next week, is that a reasonable timeline? Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on the report? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Thank you,
There is a
everybody.
raised hand, Chair Turi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fred?
Yes, I have a suggestion. I was very glad to see that you have affordable housing on your to-do list or your goals. And so I had a suggestion in that regard, in that with the housing elements coming up, the Springs has got kind of a concentration of lower income housing. And so for the county housing element, it's going to probably be more appropriate to put production of new affordable units somewhere else than the Springs, rather than to concentrate it there. So other parts of the urban service area might be more appropriate for production. But in light of the 3 Ps of affordable housing, preservation, protection, and production, that I would suggest that you concentrate on preservation and protection of affordable housing there, rather than production, since you already have the Siesta Way project with 92 units and the Verano Avenue one with 74 units, and you have the other ones up there by Flowery School, that it might be more fruitful for you to look into maybe tenant protections and ways to preserve existing affordable units that aren't in these larger complexes. So it's just a few suggestions and ideas for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Okay. So I will continue on with my report. So vacancies, we have several applicants that we have been interviewing, and we will hopefully be able to appoint soon. We're looking at about a month maybe, and we will have some new members on our team, and we're very excited. And a shout out to, we've been getting a lot of media. I'd like to thank the Sun and the Index Tribune for putting it out there for us that we are here, we're a viable group, and we are ready to help make some change. So we would like people to join us. So very grateful to the media and the county for promoting the vacancies. So we've had a conversation about returning to in-person, and just know that that conversation is still ongoing because we would want to keep the hybrid option, and that will increase the expenses. In addition to that, we don't necessarily have a place secured at this point, but we are looking into options. And I think Iris was giving me some suggestions the other day that I'm going to follow up with, but we are talking about possibly coming back in person. And that concludes my report. Okay. All right. Supervisor Gorin, would you like to share with us what's happening at the county and those lengthy meetings you go to?
Oh, lengthy meetings. First of all, I don't know that all of you get my newsletter. If you don't, contact Karina and make sure you're on our CC list. Often we send out a newsletter that has the column that appears in Sonoma Sun. Thank you, Sonoma Sun, for reprinting Boardwalk, but we send it out as an e-newsletter along with a couple of other goodies. And then in mid-cycle, we've just started sending out what we call a blurby, which is just sort of little snippets of information about what is happening at the county. So again, if you're not on our newsletter list, please let Karina know and we will add you. So I'm going to give you a little blurby here. I'm going to read the County of Sonoma, What's New. I was just looking at this, came out today. We have job opportunities. Part of our discussions during the departmental hearings was the discussion about how difficult it is to recruit and hire and retain county employees. And we have now approved a teleworking policy, so we're a little bit more flexible about working from home. So please pay attention to the job opportunities. And while we're talking about that, Betsy Chavez, wonderful Betsy Chavez, has joined the Economic Development Board as my appointee. So she's adding a Sonoma Valley voice along with Jordan Kivelstadt, who represents the Valley on the Economic Development Board, bringing all kinds of ideas to the county on how to help businesses. But she does not have time to serve in three capacities actually. She serves on the Mental Health Advisory Board, now Economic Development Board, and the CD Committee. And she is choosing to give up her position on the CD Committee. And this is working with the CDC in analyzing opportunities for investments for affordable housing. I think they also administer the housing voucher. Homeless services will transition to health services in the near future and no longer be part of the discussion at the CD Committee. But if any of you are interested, you must have lots of time if you're spending all night tonight on the Springs MAC. But you may know of others interested in housing. Please contact Karina or me, and I would love to interview them for consideration for appointment to the CD Committee. And the Sonoma County Housing Authority opens project-based voucher waitlists for units in Healdsburg and Petaluma. This is how we create affordable housing projects. We devote housing-based vouchers to those projects, often for homeless individuals. Yesterday, we approved $4.1 million in grant funding to support homeless action plan projects, including SOS Sonoma. So I'm so grateful that we were able to find funds to support the good operations that they do. And I think what is music to most people's ears is that we approved a more temporary moratorium on new vacation rental permits. This is an issue that we've been grappling with. I've been grappling with every year that I've served as supervisor, and before me, former Supervisor Valerie Brown. We've been hit hard. And since March 17th, I think another 44 permits have been taken out in District 1, primarily in Sonoma Valley. So we did put a cap on the pipeline applications before March 17th are allowed to proceed. Applications after March 17th, nope, you're going to be in a pause until we evaluate vacation rentals and how we move forward based upon the Planning Commission recommendations that they just made on Thursday, I believe, and we'll be considering in August. And so that was primarily the discussion yesterday, but we did have a spirited discussion regarding Picasso homes. We know the city of Sonoma has taken action, city of St. Helena, and the town of Truckee, and probably other communities are really concerned about the fractional ownership model. And now we're finding enormous homes being planned for the hills, we think as Picasso kind of homes. And James Gorin and I finally convinced our 3 colleagues to stop, listen, learn, because we're nervous that this fractional ownership model, which hopefully will not devastate the springs and the valley floor, but could really challenge us for the kind of housing and be disruptive of existing neighborhoods up in the hills. And you think that $1 million homes, $5 million homes, we don't really care about them. But if this model takes off, it could spread far and wide. And this is not the intent of Sonoma County. So those are the things that we really looked at. We are also considering, and I had to duck the meeting yesterday morning because I was visiting with my daughter. She was here for about 3 days. Woohoo! But the board was scheduled to hear a policy regarding surplus military equipment. And I'm not sure whether we took action or not. We may not have had a quorum to do that. So that's the story of my life. We're busy, and cannabis is still sort of moving forward, but we're moving forward with the full EIR. So it's on a slow track for approvals of cannabis cultivation. And there are probably other things that I can talk. Oh, the main thing I wanted to talk about is the subject of my column that I just completed yesterday. You may have heard about the Sonoma Valley Collective, Mental Health Collective, forming with 17 organizations in Sonoma Valley. First of all, huge kudos to the organizations working together, because rarely in the history of Sonoma Valley have organizations come together, collaborated, and especially to apply for grant funding from the county. And we know that mental health is of serious concern to the county and to Sonoma Valley. Sadly, the size of their grant application, $5.7 million, was probably a little too large for the ARPA funding, and 33 members evaluating and ranking those proposals. So I have had a discussion with our director, Tina Rivera of Health Services. We're going to gather some of those organizations together with Health Services to talk about how we can support mental health services in Sonoma Valley. And I may have reported the last time that we are looking at a building in Sonoma Valley to purchase and lease as a county front door delivering health and human services. And I won't give the location, but it's convenient to the Springs as well as the city of Sonoma. We have not yet said yay or nay, but Health and Human Services and maybe other departments are evaluating the space, and other community organizations are evaluating the space for shared space and services at that site. So once we have the board say, yes, we're going to negotiate, and we get through the negotiations, then I'll be able to talk about that more in detail. So the ARPA funding recommendations will be coming forward on May 24th. And so stay tuned and maybe do some research, review, and there are a lot of great proposals that were submitted and a lot of great proposals that were funded. Some of those proposals are delivering services in Sonoma Valley, but not necessarily based in Sonoma Valley. SAY is delivering counseling services to the students. They are funded for continuation of those services. Series and Food for Thought are delivering meals. I'm still trying to figure out how to get Food for All involved in that, my day. And there was some, Hannah Institute was receiving some funding from Cap Sonoma funding that is being recommended. So I'm not happy that an organization in Sonoma Valley was not funded, but I'm committed to working with so many of the partners in the Valley who are doing good things, and we will succeed at some point in the future. And to get our act together and to create an organization similar to West County Community Services, they are very good in scooping up funding. Let me just say that. So that's my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin. If we are nothing, we are extraordinarily committed in the Springs to help make change, and let us know if there's anything we can do to support you. And the ARPA funding, as somebody who tried to apply for the ARPA funding, it was a complex process and not very friendly for little orgs like ours. So
yes,
that would be my feedback on that one. So we're going to take some public comment. Hannah, did you have a question?
I do, but does public comment go first, or?
Well, we'll start with the council, then we'll go to public comment.
Okay, yeah, I had a question for Supervisor Gorin about a quote of hers in an article in the Index Tribune from April 30th about the Matson's proposed plaza.
It still is as clear as mud. We do not have an agreement to get to
it's about a specific quote where you said that you've been tucking away funds in a county escrow account for the plaza.
Yes.
And it says it's enough to potentially build the project without assistance. And I was just unaware of that.
It's enough to build a partial project,
Okay.
depending on, at a time of resources, I was able to work with a previous CAO to put into escrow $2 million for a community plaza. I've been waiting for this, waiting for the spring specific plan to be approved so that we can move forward with that. When Mr. Matson submitted an unsolicited proposal that actually would, I know working with Matson's is not something that people want to do, but there is nobody else moving forward to propose parking tucked under a community plaza. And so that's the give and take for that tiny postage stamp. We can either have a community plaza with no parking, or we can have parking and no community plaza, or maybe have both. And so that's what I'm exploring, but I'm committed to building, or at least starting, the community plaza. But it may be, if in fact we just build the community plaza without the parking, without the participation of Ken Matson, means we're going to be doing bake sales to fund the completion of the project, probably.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any public comment at this point?
I don't see any raised hands, Chair Turi.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Gorin.
Have a good night. I'll be with you as long as I can be with you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. COVID update. So we have seen an increase in numbers, and we really wanted to hear from our local health providers and public health about where we are. So we have Dr. Mase here. We have Denia Candela, and I believe we have a report from Cheryl and the health center. So thank you, Dr. Mase and Denia, for being here with us today. We have about 10 minutes for this topic. If you'd like, Karina, you have Cheryl's report that we can read after this. Okay, thank you. All right, we turn it over to Dr. Mase and Denia. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'm unmuted. I hope you can hear me, everybody.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now I do have slides to share.
You should be able to share screen.
We only have the ability to do audio. Is that okay?
Oh, okay.
Or I could send the slides to somebody to share. I mean, what would you prefer?
You can send them to me. Let me see if I can promote you to panelist. The only thing is, right after your item is over, if you still plan to listen to the meeting, you will not be able to, because I would need to remove you.
Oh, no worries. I think probably Jenny and I plan to just present and take Q&A, and then
Perfect.
public
Okay,
can
so
talk,
let me remove you and then add you as panelist. Give me just 1
Perfect.
second.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Mhm.
patience.
Will they be able to share? Will Dr. Mase be able to share her screen then?
Yes, as panelist, she will be able to. Let's hope she shows up in here. And otherwise they can email it to me and I'm happy to share screen. Either way, I need to receive it, Dr. Mase, when you can hear me, because I need to share with the council and have it available for public record.
Sure.
There they are.
Hey, there
Thank
you are.
you so much. Now I'm on. Thank you. Hi, Chair Gorin and everybody else. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being able to present the COVID update. Let me share my screen and pull up my slides, and I will definitely send them to you as soon as we are finished here. Let me just put it in presentation mode. We don't have a lot of slides, and I'll go fairly quickly. So I just want to note, as was already stated, that our case rate is going up. You can see here that our overall case rate has been sort of steadily climbing here, and from March 1st onwards, and we're now at close to 27 new cases per day per 100,000 residents. 8% overall test positivity, 7.4% in the lowest HPI quartile. The good news is, despite our case rate increasing, we still are fairly stable in terms of people in the hospital, 18 people in the hospital, and I believe our last death from COVID was a month ago, but 66 people have died from COVID since January 1st, again, mainly associated with the Omicron surge. If you look at case rates by geography, you can see that the highest case rates are actually in Sebastopol and in Sonoma. And these, of course, case rates take into account population size. So it also depends, the denominator also determines the case rate, but that's important to note. We have had an increase in cases that actually has been above California state. So California state here is in the blue, and the Bay Area altogether is in the orange, and we in Sonoma are in the green. And there's maybe a lot of reasons why the case rates are trending higher in the Bay Area than in California. In all likelihood is because we are doing more testing than the rest of California and more reporting of testing potentially. But there could also be a real increase in urban centers like San Francisco. And state modeling does predict that this wave or increase will peak in potentially mid to late May. If you look at our case rate compared to other Bay Area counties, and there's 11 Bay Area counties, you can see that Sonoma is kind of in the middle. So we're not, as we were in the beginning of the pandemic, right at the top. In fact, we're in good company, but in the middle in terms of our case rate, suggesting that this is a regional trend and that we are in with the pack. Now, you may ask about variants. There are new subvariants of Omicron. They continue to emerge. And as you're probably aware, as COVID transmits, and especially as community transmission increases, like we have now, an increase in community transmission with a higher case rate, there are more likely to be transmission of variants and new variants for that matter. BA.2 is the most dominant subvariant in the United States, and right now accounts for about 6% of the genotyped specimens. In other words, not all specimens in Sonoma County are sequenced. We select specimens based on risk, and we do find that 6% are positive for BA.2. BA.4 and BA.5, other subvariants of Omicron, are responsible for a new surge in South Africa They have been detected in the United States, but we have not found BA.4 or 5 here in Sonoma County yet at this point. And the research does suggest, that even though these Omicron subvariants are more transmissible, we are not seeing greater disease severity, as you can see from our hospitalizations and our lack, in other words, of increase in hospitalizations and deaths. We still know vaccination is the best thing that you can do to protect yourself. And in fact, cases in unvaccinated individuals are 3.2 times more likely based on our data. People who are unvaccinated are 18.8 times more likely to be hospitalized and 12.8 times more likely to die of COVID. And that's just the basic facts, and supports the value and importance of not only the initial vaccine series, but also the booster. I also am very happy to say that Sonoma County currently has the 10th highest vaccination rate of the 58 counties in California, and that our population that's fully vaccinated, this is everybody, that's the kids under 5 as well, is 78.6%. We have the 9% higher vaccination rate than all of California. This is different than our vaccination rate in eligible individuals. In other words, only kids at this point 5 and over are eligible. So if you exclude those under 5, our percentage of fully vaccinated is 82%, partially vaccinated an additional 7%, for a total of 89% of our eligible population that has been either fully or partially vaccinated, which is fantastic. The good news is the cumulative deaths per 100K are significantly less than California and the nation. We have 56.4% less deaths per 100K residents than all of California, and it's more like 65% less deaths on average in the nation. And our cumulative cases are 23.5% less than California and significantly less than the nation as well. So we got some good statistics going for us. I want to thank all of you, thank the population, the community in Sonoma for doing the right thing, because it's only with partnership with our community and other stakeholders that we achieve this kind of success. I'm now going to turn it over to our Health Equity Manager, Denia Candela, to present the last 5 slides. So go ahead, Denia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mase. Good evening, everybody. A pleasure being with you today. I just want to start off by acknowledging that these materials can be kind of provided to Karina to make sure that we have some bilingual content for folks. So we'll make sure to give these out and get them getting to you all in the community. So kind of my piece will cover more in-depth kind of equity metrics. As Dr. Mase mentioned, we went over case rates. This specifically covered cases by race and ethnicity. At the moment, looking at Black residents are currently experiencing the highest case rates, 29 new cases per 100,000 per day. Thereafter, followed by American Indian and Alaska Native residents at 26 new cases per 100,000 residents per day. It's clear that the disproportionate impact of communities of color kind of continues to carry it over, even when we are seeing at the county-wide level data in terms of that. So we can see kind of the rates at the bottom per 100,000 each by race and ethnicity at the bottom, as well as like the graphs right on top. Next slide. And as I mentioned, in disproportionate impact on communities of color, Black, Indigenous people of color in Sonoma County, we've seen similar trends nationwide, statewide. And when we look at relative to population size, which is really important for us to disaggregate data and look at things a little bit deeper, we can see that Latinx residents have accounted for 45% of all cases in Sonoma County, while representing 27.3% or so of the populations. This kind of clear comes to same with our American and Indian, Alaska Native communities, Pacific Islander, who've experienced the highest rates really throughout COVID-19 over the course of the pandemic. This information is also available in SoCo Emergency through our dashboard if folks wanted to kind of navigate that a little bit further. And it is available through folks, and as well as the graph at the bottom on the bottom right, there's population size broken down by race and ethnicity as well. So a lot of information there, but also available upon request if needed. Next slide. We talked a little bit about vaccination, and right now something that we're really focusing on, it's really booster administration and where we're seeing disparities, so we can really further allocate our resources, but also just kind of efforts in continuing to close the gap between our lowest quartile, HPI-1, right now it's experiencing 61% out of the proportion of eligible 12 and up year olds with the booster, with at least one booster dose by HPI. And we can see a disparity between HPI-1 and HPI-4. HPI kind of being the healthy places index over quartiles, and those who tend to have similar trends in least access to resources, transportation, socioeconomic status, and not to mention a huge kind of piece of intersectionality there is race, right? And when we look at race and ethnicity as well, we can see our Latinx community of 51% far on the right on those graphs. Thereafter, American Indian, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, and then Black, African American, and so on. And in summary, really 65.5% of current eligible 12 and up year olds have received booster doses. 76.5% of eligible adults 50 and up have received their booster dose. I'm happy to say that we've had some amazing community engagement here in Sonoma, as well as in other areas in the county, to really elevate and understand the messaging that we need to kind of carry on forward to address the booster disparity and really through meaningful community engagement, right? Because we know that is especially important through community center models. So that's kind of what our next kind of focus will be. Next slide. And overall, when we look at vaccine administration, we can see that 89% of Sonoma County population age 5 and up are at least partially vaccinated. 82% of those are fully vaccinated, and 7% of those are partially vaccinated. Really looking at race and ethnicity, again, we kind of foresee some similar trends there, although American Indian, Alaska Native kind of are 68 kind of percent, and then our Latinx community, right? But very similar trends in terms of what we're seeing, and by age group as well on the left. We can see the same, the 5 to 11. That's the nature of this graph makes sense in terms of the approval of vaccines, right? Like 5 to 11-year-olds being approved a little bit later and through the course of the vaccine rollout. So those similar trends are to be expected, yet we're still continue to monitor kind of outcomes and kind of vaccine access and whatnot. So I believe that's my next slide, my last slide. Next slide. If not, that's okay. Oh, I think there's one more. You want to go back? Overall, vaccine equity measures. This kind of graph looks in depth more just specifically through HPI or Healthy Places Index kind of measures. So 26% of vaccine doses have been administered to residents in the lowest HPI quartile of the Healthy Places Index, as mentioned, and 81 of those residents age 5 and up in this quartile are at least partially vaccinated. This is a really interesting picture when we look at vaccine equity measures and the importance of really looking deeper into race and ethnicity, booster administration, and further disaggregating data for us. And so we're able to really track where things need to be monitored. So that kind of wraps up my piece of it all. And now we're done with the slideshow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mase and Denia, for being here. I think we probably have some questions for you. I'll open it up to, we try not to have a lot of back and forth, but we'll do the best we can to kind of summarize our questions for you. As I'm wondering if council has any questions. Jesus.
Yes, I have two questions for any of Dr. Mase. The first one is about what are the resources when there is an outbreak? How do you channel resources for people that get COVID? And the second one is what is the after getting your first booster, when is it safe to get your second booster? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions, Jesus. Let me start with the first. So we are really targeting vulnerable populations. So we're focusing our technical assistance for outbreak, in other words, our nursing staff and community health workers, for those people who are most vulnerable. So for example, skilled nursing facilities, residential care facilities for the elderly, other congregate settings, such as jail populations, the homeless populations. We're also focusing on the lower HPI group, the people who are disproportionately affected, people who are living in multi-generational families, and the schools that are located in those neighborhoods as well. We do provide assistance, and of course, it's also how large the outbreak is. When we had our shelter outbreak at Sam Jones, it was huge. People went to the hospital, people died. It was a big, big outbreak, and we were on site along with the state to help that situation. We're still maintaining the ability to respond to these outbreaks, even though we have to pull back from the COVID response. We've also built institutional infrastructure in dealing with outbreaks. Our hospitals don't need us anymore. And certain other facilities, even the skilled nursing facilities, have been taught how to manage their own outbreaks to a certain extent because that knowledge has been given to them. So as far as the boosters, we now have the fourth booster, but let me first talk about that is the second booster. Let me talk about the first booster. Studies have shown a clear advantage for anybody who's eligible for the first booster dose to get it. It's a very effective against Omicron. So the thinking is if you're 5 months out from either your second of a 2 vaccine series or your 1 J&J shot, that you're eligible for the first booster. If you're 18 and over, then it's Moderna. If you're 12 and over, it's Pfizer. And it's recommended that you get that booster. Second boosters are a little bit more complicated. There isn't as much data to show that there's a huge bump in immunity, but there is a bump in immunity. And that booster is eligible for anybody who's 50 or over 4 months after their first booster. Now, having said that, we really, really recommend those over 65 get that second booster because again, they're the ones that are most vulnerable, most at risk, and most likely to have negative outcomes. So I highly recommend if you're 60, 65 plus to get that second booster. Those people in that younger category of 50 to 64 or 60, if you don't have underlying conditions, then it's up to you. You really need to kind of think about the pros and cons. There may be a new vaccine coming out in fall that will actually cover more variants. And some people are waiting for that if they're otherwise healthy. So it is a personal decision to get that second booster at this time.
Thank you. Iris, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. And I think it was kind of answered as you spoke. When you were talking about fully vaccinated, including the booster, you weren't talking about having a second booster, it seems like.
No, right now the definition of fully updated, that's what they're calling it, is having that first booster.
Thank you.
I have a question about testing in the Springs. I've heard that there's limited testing that's happening and perhaps no testing happening by the county. I'm just wondering, we know that that's one of the best mitigations we can use. COVID is my world, not anywhere near what it is in yours, but it's part of my job. So I just know how important the testing piece of this is. And I'm wondering if we can get some testing to happen in the Springs with some regularity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. Our team is working hard to try to provide testing, despite the fact that, you know, we are in a model of transition now with the COVID response. But I'm going to have Denia speak to that because she's the expert here. So go ahead, Denia.
Sure, far less from an expert, but definitely I think approaching I think there's been a huge shift, like Dr. Mase has mentioned, in folks and providers' abilities that, as you guys may know, are not necessarily directly kind of connected to the county in the ways in which we have kind of learned to be best practices, right? Like we know that we want to acknowledge that asking for social security number, for example, for undocumented community is not a best practice. We've heard it time and time and again. And although providers right now are shifting to that practice due to the way that they're billed, it's not something that we have control over. However, we are working right now pretty closely with the state in order to mobilize what they are kind of allocating to our county to allocate some support in the Springs area. to try to find a location for that can serve that. In addition, there is some kind of collaboration happening with the state as well to try to figure out ways of other ways, right, in terms of a testing, not just a testing site, but also access to rapid testing for our most vulnerable population. So we'll be kind of working into that a little bit more. And there's always other kind of strategies that we're trying to figure out in expanding capacity for folks who may be interested in kind of hosting perhaps a smaller scale testing site to the California Testing Task Force. So we are working with the state and trying to make sure that we continue to allocate resources. It's a big shift in the way that funding's kind of how providers are being affected by funding, and we'll continue to make sure that the Springs and the Sonoma Valley and all kind of areas in the county are continuing to have, especially in those areas. As Dr. Mase mentioned, I think our priority with the COVID response is going to be focusing on the individuals who have the least access to a traditional healthcare system kind of setting. And that will continue to be our main priority.
Thank you, Dania. If there's anything that we can do to help support the need for testing in the Springs and in the Valley, please let us know, because I believe that the council would agree with me that we believe it's an important strategy for our community. So thank you.
So Dr. Kimura, who's actually our testing deputy health officer for COVID, who's our testing lead, was unable to be with us, but I will ensure that she connects with you all to ensure that, you know, we're getting what the needs met.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Okay, I see one raised hand. I do want to remind you, Chair Terry, we have Director Cheryl Johnson's quick report. It's a written report. She was not able to make it after this comment. If that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. We have 2 raised hands. We'll do a 2-minute public comment. Thank you.
Fred, go ahead, followed by Celeste.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm a big fan and admirer of Dr. Mase, and I'm very happy to have her expertise all through the pandemic. I'd like to ask, it seems like people just couldn't wait to get the masks off, and everywhere I go, there's lots of unmasked people. City Council has unmasked meetings, yet others having Zoom meetings. And now we have these surges. I just would like some advice on masking going forward here from Dr. Mase. And then I also wanted to ask about the disproportional impacts and if this is clearly related to housing, and if inflation and low income is making people even more vulnerable. So that's just a couple questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I think
No, sorry.
I was going to say, can we take Celeste's question and then you answer them both? Celeste, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. As a parent in the Valley who has a couple of children still in school, and also very active in the disability community, I have children with disabilities myself. One of the things that's been a big concern is sort of the relaxation of a lot of the precautions that are being taken in the public schools. And this is particularly noticeable when we return from spring break, from winter break, coming back from summer vacations, when everyone's been doing a lot of traveling, and there seems to be a high number of exposures in the classroom and notices going out to families. And so I'm just wondering if the county could consider moving forward as we look at ending the school year and going into summer vacation and coming back, that we start providing some more guidances, more strict guidances regarding testing and more testing opportunities for students before they return to school in those like 48 hours before the return to school, to help mitigate some of the COVID exposures that are happening in the classrooms when kids return from vacation. I know as a parent myself, I actually withhold my children from school for an additional week after a break, because inevitably there's an exposure in the classroom, and I have a respiratory compromised child, and I can't take that risk. But we're all pretty much setting our watches to those exposures when we come back from school breaks. And so I'm hopeful that the county can start providing some more guidances and testing opportunities for students when returning specifically from those breaks from school.
Thank you
so much. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna, so one of them is on masking, the other one's on housing, if that's contributing. And then of course, Celeste's comment about stronger. I also have a strong interest in your answer to Celeste's question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fred, Celeste. Thank you so much. You're bringing some really, really important topics up. As far as masking, I really appreciate the question because it's a very, very high recommendation to keep masking, especially in indoor settings, especially amongst a group of people, if it's a gathering, because we are seeing transmission. As you can see, we're seeing an increase in case rate. And part of that is really as a result of, the mask mandate going away and people thinking that we're back in a normal way of living, which we're getting to. But I think people have to regulate their own risks at this point. So if you are concerned, you should wear a mask and a surgical grade or an N95 mask. We have a high recommendation from the Department of Health Services and Public Health that kids mask in schools, that teachers mask in schools. Now, this is not a mandate, so it's hard to enforce, but a very, very high recommendation because we see just what Celeste said as well in terms of transmission in schools. If you read the PD article the other day, you can see we have many, many, many outbreaks in schools, and they peaked after spring break, but they're continuing. And they're not decreasing, rather we're seeing more outbreaks, probably because of, backing off on the mask mandate. Having said that, it's really about your risk at this point, because we can see the case rates are going up, but the hospitalizations and deaths are not. So people are getting COVID, and that's a bad thing, but they're not all dying of it. So I would highly recommend that in indoor public settings, people mask. When you go to Costco nowadays, you still see at least half the people mask. And that's a tribute to the message that we've gotten out. So with schools, we do plan to try our best to work with the state to provide more testing in schools. It's really, really, really important, especially as children come back after their summer breaks. And I agree with you, especially when you have, like Celeste has, a respiratorily compromised child. It's very worrisome. I can tell you as a parent, I've gotten no less than probably about 10 exposure messages from the school in the past, well, since we restarted after spring break, I suppose. So it's like daily messages. Your child has been exposed to somebody who has COVID, blah, blah, blah. So it's inevitable. It's a congregate setting, and we need to be very careful. And I agree 100% that trying to provide the level of testing needed is important. I know the state has gotten a lot more tests, and that our testing deputy health officer who's in charge of testing is trying the best that we can to try to get those tests out. So yeah, let me speak to that. I'm going to let Dania follow up on some of the other issues and add to this.
I like to add on that conversation that one of the best practices that we have seen throughout the county for schools to take have been to sign up for the California Testing Task Force. So we've seen other districts sign up for the California Testing Task Force. We've seen other districts kind of work directly with the state and also kind of contracting in some cases with their own kind of like testing provider. So those practices have been really helpful in ensuring kind of safety for students, especially in order to dismiss transmission. And we've known some places have also adopted to continuing masking as schools to protect our students to the best of their ability. So that is definitely one of the practices that we're seeing throughout the county that have been helpful. In terms of Fred's kind of points around disproportionate impact, I think it's so important and like I want to acknowledge that disproportionate impact is, more than what we see sometimes. In terms of folks, we know that when you're sick, then you have to miss work, and then missing work puts money on the table, and ability to then put money on the table. It's that kind of disproportionate impact. We see trends, and we are very much aware of that and like the impacts that it has in our most kind of low income areas. And we are very much conscious of that. And we hope that we're able to continue to keep community safe and continuing some of the recommendations, the strong recommendations that Dr. Mase has mentioned here today through her clinical expertise.
Thank you both so much. I just want one thing that one of the comments that I want to end with is one of the things that happens in schools is they become battlegrounds with people wanting masks and not wanting masks. And if there's anything that County Public Health can help us do, particularly in those times when people have been traveling and we're coming back from those events, to more than just highly recommend, to actually even mandate that there's our masks for a couple of weeks, just to bring down that surge. And I know that puts everybody in a difficult position, particularly when we have the federal government relaxing their mask mandates, but it would be very helpful to us in school settings if we had a little bit more cover and support when it comes to masking. So, thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And you've already alluded to the highly political nature of this debate. We're following the case rates and we're following the data, especially looking at the negative outcomes. And we are constantly talking with the Bay Area Hospital Health Officer Group to ensure that we're doing the right thing. So I hear you. That's what I can say. And we are taking into consideration everything that you're saying. And sometimes doing these things unilaterally are hard. To do something more on a regional level is easier. So that's why we have regional groups. So anyways, that's the best answer I have for right now, but we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you. I just couldn't let the opportunity go to say something. So I appreciate you taking the comment. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we will close this item and we'll get the slides out. And thank you both very much for being here. We know you're super busy. And thank you again.
Thanks. I'll send the slides to you, Karina. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, Denia. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to take this moment, Chair Turi, to quickly read the update from Director Cheryl Johnson.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. So I'm just going to read it. We're seeing an increase in COVID numbers, although it is not as high as it was in January and February. Most of the cases are related to travel or gatherings. We believe that there will continue to be outbreaks related to travel and around holidays. We are recommending that people have some home testing kits on hand. These tests can be used to check your status before attending an event and or because you have symptoms. OSHA is allowing employers to accept the results of home tests under specific circumstances. We currently have home testing kits available at the Sonoma Valley Community Health Center and invite you to pick up a few. These testing kits are free and do not expire until 2023. Not all COVID-related activities will continue to be free. As we move from the pandemic stage into the endemic stage, federal funding will end and agencies will have to go to traditional payment sources. This may mean charging health insurance agencies or the patient. We are already seeing testing agencies transition from a free model to a payment one. If you do not want to use your insurance or pay out of pocket for COVID testing, we are encouraging you to pick up home testing kits. Finally, we are encouraging people to get vaccinated and boosted. A recent news report stated that there are some COVID deaths where persons received first and second doses, but not the boosters. It is important to get boosters to ward off new COVID variants. Sonoma Valley Community Health Center has vaccine clinic on Wednesdays from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., where we offer adult and pediatric Pfizer and as well as Moderna vaccines. And they did provide this in Spanish. I also want to add that the health center wants to invite the community to their Fabric of Gratitude art exhibition in collaboration with the Sonoma Community Center, starting May 12th through May 26th. They collected squares of fabric decorated by community members during their vaccine clinics throughout the pandemic. Community members were prompted by the question, why were you vaccinated? And the hope is to create a quilt out of these fabrics. The Fabric of Gratitude is to show all of these beautiful and hand-drawn fabric squares created by some of the 30,000 plus members of the community who passed through the vaccination clinic. So there's more information. You can look it up at the Sonoma Valley Community Health Center website. Thank you, Chair Turi.
I really want to, I know Cheryl couldn't be here with us today. I really appreciate her sending her report and supporting the community the way she has. Both her and Mari Carmen through the health clinic have just been amazing through this whole thing. So thank you.
Absolutely, Chair Turi. And if I may, I just want to mention, and Supervisor Gorin is here as well. I know she's tuning in, but I do want to mention that our office has received complaints about the lack of available free testing in the Springs and then Sonoma Valley, and Supervisor Gorin is working with health services to increase those opportunities. We are aware that health services is partnering up with CBOs, organizations in the Valley, such as La Luz, Comida para Todos, Líderes Campesinas, to offer testing kits. And if you're having trouble or if you know of someone, please have them contact our office, and we're glad to connect them to these organizations.
Thank you, Karina. Appreciate that.
But I also want to thank once again our health center for stepping up to the plate and at least letting people know that they have free test kits available so that people can take the test at home and get pretty rapid responses. My sister and her partner did avail themselves of the testing at the Fiesta Plaza and had very rapid tests, but they're insured. And so they were able to provide their insurance cards with Kaiser, and not everybody can do that. So we're once again trying to confirm and arrange for testing to ramp up in Sonoma Valley. And I wish we were not in this position, but we are.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin, for recognizing the disparities in the Springs. Thank you. So we'll close that item and move on to transportation. I believe we have Janice Thompson here from Transportation and Public Works to give us an update.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Janice Thompson, Deputy Director, Transportation and Public Works. I'm going to talk fast because you guys are running on a long meeting. Good for you.
So hold on,
I'm going to
Janice, the interpreter would appreciate it if we didn't talk fast. So, you know, slow, medium fast pace, not, you know, Energizer Bunny fast. Yeah. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to talk about two items. One we understand is the most important to this group, which is pedestrian safety improvements in the Highway 12 corridor and Verano Avenue corridors, and then also some paving that is planned for this year. So returning to the first item, which is pedestrian safety on the Highway 12 corridor, we're working closely with Supervisor Gorin's office on a plan for some improvements on Highway 12. We're looking at a phased approach because we have to work closely with Caltrans to garner their permission and an encroachment permit to do the work. The first phase includes some delineators on the Sonoma Creek Bridge, which is in between Encinas Lane and the Donald Street. And we'd like to add some delineators on the shoulder to help form a separation for pedestrians on that bridge, in addition to enhance crosswalk striping at two locations, Sierra Avenue and Waterman Avenue. That would be phase one. Phase two would include some pedestrian activated flashing signs at 4 locations, Sierra, Waterman, Central, and Verano Avenues. There is more cost for these items, and we're working closely with Supervisor Gorin's office on a budget request. And finally, phase 3 would include filling in the gap in the sidewalk between Donald Street and Verano Avenue and adding some pedestrian lighting on the bridge. All 3 of those phases total $2.5 million. So you can understand why we need to work on this in a phased approach. And all of this is on a state highway requiring coordination with Caltrans. My second item is on paving. The 22 paving program is just getting underway, and the roads in this area include Bennett Valley, Craig Avenue, Crane Canyon Road, Petaluma Avenue, Petrified Forest Road, and Verano Avenue. That's my report. I'm ready to take questions.
Okay, we'll start with Hannah. Thank you, Janice.
Yeah, thank you. Can you describe, or I don't know if this is decided yet, but you talked about the 4 crosswalks that will have the flashing lights, the flashing pedestrian lights. Will they be like the ones that they just put in on 12 in the city of Sonoma, or will they be the ones where it lights up on the ground itself, on the street?
Yeah, the county, thanks for that question, Hannah. The county doesn't care for the lighting in the street, very difficult to maintain. They will be signs. They're typically yellow signs that kind of flash or have a border of flashing lights around them.
So not the stop sign style ones along Highway 12, more of just a flashing light indicating someone is crossing.
So I'm not exactly sure what city of Sonoma did, sorry.
Oh, it actually like is like a red light and it says stop, and then I mean it almost looks like a mini stoplight.
Okay, no, they would be more of a yellow sign with yellow or white lighting.
Thank you.
Iris?
That did answer my question. And I wanted to say that having some experience with crossing in Sonoma with those new lights, they're very confusing, and they are not fast enough to let someone just cross the street. I wound up waiting while the cars were stopped, waiting for me to cross the street, but I didn't have a walk sign. And so finally I just went, okay, you're stopped, I'm going, because it didn't make any sense. And I'm glad to see that the county is not going to put those in. I think they only create confusion and because they're unnecessarily long, that they actually are kind of dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Janice, I have a question. What's a delineator?
Oh, thank you. It is let's see, a vertical plastic element that we would put along the shoulder stripe, the fog line of the road, and it just kind of creates a visual barrier.
Hannah, is your hand up again?
Yeah, I just would wonder why we couldn't do a, what's it called, a Jersey barrier. I mean, those delineators, cars can go right over them.
So not terribly yeah, that's a good graphic. Thank you. And the wider barriers, we just don't have the room for.
They did use them during when they were restriping that area. I mean, they did use the Jersey, whatever they're called, those types.
Janice, are you still with us?
I am. Sometimes barriers are used in construction where there's room, but the bridge doesn't offer us that opportunity.
Understood. You're right. They went down to one lane, or well, they didn't go down to one lane. Anyways, I think it'll be good, but how long can we expect to have those up before we have real separation between pedestrians, bicyclists, and the cars in that area?
So specifically on the bridge, that's the area I'm talking about, using the delineators, and to have something more would require either bridge widening or a separate bridge, which is very costly.
And Hannah, let me just say that we've been working on this issue in the Donald Street Gap for a very long time. We did ask Caltrans to consider replacing the bridge and therefore widening the bridge so we could have that better separation. And they cannot recommend replacement of the bridge because it's in good condition. darn it. So, and we talked about hanging a sidewalk or a passageway on the outside of the bridge. We're not sure that it can hold it structurally. And if you walk across it, there's not a lot of room. I mean, the mobile home parks are right up against there, a lot of vegetation. And so really want to thank Janice for talking about hopefully something that will work. I know that some of the areas, some of the cities have little concrete curbs between the between the highway lane and the bike lane. And it's something that we might think about, but from a cyclist perspective, it makes me crazy because I feel like I'm constrained if in fact somebody's coming the opposite way and there's just no escape route when you have that firm concrete border. So at least in this case, the delineator is saying, hello, space for a bicycle and pedestrian. And I wish we had a better solution. And I'm working on trying to get the funding, enormous amount of funding, to actually get the right of way and realign the traffic and create a real sidewalk up to the bridge. So working on that, it's challenging.
Janice, can you tell us thank you, Supervisor Gorin. Janice, can you tell us what the timeline is on some of this?
Yes, thank you. So phase one, which would be the delineators on the bridge and some crosswalk striping, could potentially be at the end of this year, should Caltrans grant us an encroachment permit. And the other two phases are a year to 2 to 3 years out, depending on Caltrans granting the encroachment permit. The last phase, which includes the sidewalk where there is none, would require right of way, and that can take us some time. So again, that's kind of why we phased it. We hope to deliver phase one at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Phase two would follow in a year, and maybe phase three in that third year.
Thank you. Sounds like we need to get Caltrans back here, and maybe community members need to write to them. Iris, did you have another comment?
Yes, what about rumble strips where the delineators are too? Does that make any sense? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion, Iris. Not sure Caltrans would allow rumble strips. So there's really very little physical space on the bridge. And a rumble strip is as much as a foot wide. And that's just area that we lose, which is why we chose the delineators as a more effective visual guide to vehicles.
Thank you. I think we have public comment.
Yes, I do see raised hands in the order that they showed up for me: Fred, David, and Joe.
All righty.
And how much time do you want to allocate?
We're going to do 2 minutes.
Okay.
This will be a short public comment. I just want to say that I'm really impressed with the quality of the information here with the MAC and the breadth of the information you guys are presenting and who you've had show up. So I think this is a really great public service, and I'm really impressed. I haven't been to the MAC for a while, but you guys are doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. That was very nice to hear. Thank you. Who was next? Karina?
David, go ahead and state your name and your comment, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is David Gleba. I am with a group of residents up on Cadedale and Trinity Road, and we've been advocating for basically helping get some of the fire roads that were damaged in 2017 repaved and repaired. And I just wanted to share our appreciation to Janet and the TPW staff. They're actually paving, she didn't mention it, but in addition to all the regular paving they're doing, this summer they're actually doubling the number of roads, almost an additional 42 miles of roads, including these roads up in the hills above the springs. And part of the importance of that is that this will allow first responders to get to fires that are potentially happening in the hills, with the idea that we have to stop them there, or else we know they come into Sonoma Valley and the potential there is catastrophic. So I just wanted to thank Janice and her team and the Board of Supervisors and Susan and her team, because they've really gone to the mat and done a lot of creative, hardworking things to get this work done and to get it funded. And I know Janice, just for anybody who doesn't know, has been with the county for 30 years. I don't know what your anniversary date is this year, Janice, but it's really exceptional work. And with her and the Board of Supervisors, they've committed $130 million in the last decade and have repaved almost a third of the county roads. So we're really lucky to have folks like Janice on the team, and I just wanted to express that appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Joe?
Yeah, so just bring it real quick. I live in the Springs. I work right off of Verano, and I tend to walk that bridge a lot when I walk to work. And Hannah, just so if you don't fully recall, when they striped, they put a barrier on one side of the road at a time and then switched when they striped the other side. And that's also Highway 12. There's a lot of school buses that go through there. And with just that one barrier, a school bus and a large truck was very hairy. So getting barriers would be really tough. And I just say I'm excited for the delineators. I think that'll be huge, not only for traffic, but I definitely, as a driver, seeing folks on bikes and whatnot kind of swerve into the road as well. So I think it will make a big difference. And I'm excited for it because I do feel a little bit sketchy sometimes walking to work, especially on that little piece of bridge. So thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Seeing no more public comment, we will go back to the council for closing comments.
Chair Terry, I want to acknowledge that we received a written public comment.
Oh, I think Iris is going to read it.
Correct.
Okay. Hello, my name is Janet McLaughlin, and I'm a local resident. This past December 2021, my 16-year-old daughter was walking to a local shopping area in the early evening from our home. At the Verano Avenue, Lomita Avenue intersection, my daughter was hit by a car by a driver who claimed he didn't see her. This intersection is marked by 4 stop signs, and there is one overhead light that is not very bright by itself. My daughter had almost made it across the street, no crosswalk lines, flashing lights, or signs, when she was struck, landing next to the sidewalk she was crossing to. This is a familiar area for her, and we are all very lucky that she only had 2 fractures in her foot, along with abrasions on her head, elbow, and knee. When following up for insurance purposes, I traveled over to Rohnert Park to obtain the CHP report that the Napa CHP had filed. The officer that helped me noticed the location of the accident and said to me, "That's a really bad area," which of course we know from living in the neighborhood for 15+ years. In addition, even though it is a 4-way stop sign, cars are often flying up Lomita and cutting over to Donald to jump ahead in line on Highway 12 and vice versa. The main intersection at Highway 12 and Verano needs serious attention because it overflows to nearby streets, such as the Verano-Lomita intersection 1 short block over. My question to everyone is, if we know it's a bad area and the CHP knows it's a bad area, what can be done to make it safer? It seems that everyone with any power in the matter wants to pass the buck because it's officially in the unincorporated area or too complicated with different agencies. How do we work together to figure this out? Isn't the safety of our residents the most important end game goal? Please work together to make this right. Thank you all for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Janet.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you, Janet, for your comment. Closing comments from the council?
And I just wanted to thank Janet for her comment, and obviously we send our deepest regrets on the injury to her daughter. and let her know that this is something that the MAC has been working on. We have been working on. We have been having almost regular meetings with Caltrans and Transportation Public Works. Janice Thompson has been part of the conversation. We are trying desperately to figure out the best way to make this intersection safer. So Hannah and the MAC members, I really appreciate your focus on this intersection. And long term, I would love to have $20 million to put a traffic circle in there, but that's going to take a while. And we're still sort of looking at what more we could do to the intersection to make it safer. And certainly I would encourage, I don't know what color clothing this young woman was wearing. Anytime you go out at night, bring a flashlight and wear some brightly fluorescent vest or something, fluorescent shoes, so that you're easier to spot. And I would add one more thing. We're getting to the point where we're starting to think about the next 2-year paving cycle. And so I would love to have MAC members, 2 MAC members maybe, to help us identify roads in the Springs to prioritize for repaving for the next 2-year cycle. And Janice, you can tell me when the next 2-year cycle is. It's not next year, but it's the following year.
Yeah, that's right, Supervisor Gorin. The next 2-year paving cycle would be 2024 and 2025. And we like to come before the board to get that list approved in early 2023.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin and Janice. Appreciate that. Hannah, did you have a closing comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Janice. You gave us really clear, concise information, and I really appreciate it. And I am not a traffic engineer, but I do believe that a big reason we have so many injuries in this area is because we have a brief, like, I forget if it's like less than a half a mile, where we go to 2 lanes on both sides on Highway 12 from the Lucky Shopping Center to Verano Ave, and then it goes back to 1 lane both ways. So everyone is all of a sudden racing to get ahead of each other. And then all of a sudden everyone's condensing back down to 1 lane. So I think that this is a huge reason that we see so many injuries in this area. And if I don't know exactly what you do in your job, but if you come through here, I would just observe on Highway 12, if you're able to have any effect here, and it sounds like you're able to now, please look at this racing behavior, because I don't think we're moving extra people by having 2 lanes for less than 1/3 of a mile. So I did make a little presentation about this, and I could send it to you if you'd be open to that. It's like 2 slides or 3 slides. So thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I agree. Just saying.
Thank you. And Janice, thank you from the council for being here. This has been, I feel like we moved a mountain today with your presentation, and so we really, really appreciate it. These are things we've been asking for. So thank you to Supervisor Gorin and the Board of Supervisors, and to Transportation for looking at these things that we've been so concerned about. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our skate park. We're excited to hear from the skate park folks, and then we'll take a break. I'm not sure who's here, Karina.
Nick, we have Nick and we have Eric. Give me just 1 second. I promoted Eric and Nick. Nick, I'm getting a message, allow you to talk, not available, because you are using an older version of Zoom. So I will need to promote you as panelist, but when you're finished, you will need to disconnect from the meeting, and I apologize. You can jump back on after the meeting. And we should have Eric and Nick on the screen now.
Okay. Hi, Eric and Nick. Welcome to the Springs MAC meeting. You have about 10 minutes for this topic.
Thank you. I think Nick's going to start out. Let's see if he can.
Thank you, Chair Terry. Thank you to the committee. And thank you to Karina.
Eric, can you
Can
tell
you
Nick?
hear me?
Eric, can you tell Nick? Can you text him and tell him we can't hear him?
Just did.
Thank you. Eric, can you tell Nick? Oh, we're getting feedback.
Just did.
Thank you.
Can you hear me at this point?
Nick, we hear sounds, but it's breaking. And then you're frozen on the screen.
Nothing. I have muted and
I don't know if you can call in. Maybe that would work better if you can call in.
Nothing.
Nick, we hear sounds.
Okay.
I don't know if you can. Maybe that would work. Terry, would you like to go on a quick 5-minute break while I
Yeah.
figure out? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So it's
ready when you are.
Okay. Nick and Eric.
Yes.
All right.
Hello. Thank you for dealing with our technical difficulties. Thank you, Chair Rotary, and thank you to the committee, and thank you very much to Karina for helping us facilitate this presentation. So we are the Valley of the Moon Park Riders Union. We are a group consisting of skateboarders, parents, educators, community organizers, local business owners, artists, to name a few. And we have come together to advocate for the skateboarding community. Our mission is as follows. We hope to provide a strong foundation upon which to build a thriving skateboard community in Sonoma Valley. We believe this is important for several reasons. As you will see on slide number 3, skateboarding is a positive creative outlet for youth that provides valuable life lessons. Examples would include perseverance, determination, and the realizing of self-efficacy. It also promotes exercise, physical fitness, and the mental health benefits inherent in such activities. And we believe this to be especially true for those unattracted to or unable to participate in team sports. It fills a void for this demographic and keeps kids engaged in something that they can be passionate about. This results in fewer opportunities to be involved in substance use and other truant activities. And Karina, would we be able to move to slide 3? Thank you very much.
Give me just a sec, Eric. Has everybody seen the full screen, or are you seeing the PowerPoint template?
PowerPoint template.
Okay, I apologize.
It's okay. I mean, you can read it. You can advance if you can advance the screens in that format. It's fine.
I wish I don't know why it's not working. I believe it's the format of the slides, but is it okay the way it was presented?
Yes.
Okay. I will share screen again. Apologies. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Nick.
No problem. Thank you much. And the other point we would like to emphasize is that skateboarding is relatively accessible for many populations, related to other individual activities such as snowboarding or skiing or surfing. The entry-level price is much cheaper. It's usually $100 and $150 versus $500 plus for others such activities. So it is much more accessible for underserved and underrepresented populations. And we believe that this speaks to how essential of an activity it is in our community. And we believe that providing a top-notch facility will encourage progression of skateboarding in our community. And with skateboarding now in the Olympics and being an ever-growing industry, We believe that this provides a path to a potential viable profession. And so on slide number 4, you will see our existing skate park. Skate park was built in 1999 at a time when the craft of skate park construction was not totally refined. And so our initial build had several flaws, and the park was deemed unusable by the city, with Police Chief Gurney and the skateboard community, which at the time was represented by the Sonoma Skate Society. Repairs took roughly a year, which resulted in a sort of patchwork of obstacles that started to deteriorate over time. Additionally, some design elements were not present in the final product, namely a bathroom and a water fountain. And we believe that these factors have resulted in somewhat of an underutilized facility. And if we could please go to the next slide, Karina, number 5. So these are some examples of other premier facilities in close proximity. We're looking at Napa, St. Helena, and Sebastopol. We'd like to note that they are very large areas with diverse obstacles. They include designated viewing areas, shade structures, and lights for expanded hours of usage, as well as artistic elements that are aesthetically pleasing. And so on slide number 6, Karina, we will see some of our current initiatives for improving the park. These include cleanup days, minor concrete repairs, painting, removal of graffiti, as well as the removal of the fence that you may have noticed, which we believe address some aesthetic issues as well as some safety concerns with the proximity of the fence to certain obstacles. We're also working on some community outreach, partnering with the Sonoma Original Skate Shop in the Springs. And we've been working with them to promote our cause in the community and expand the scope of our organization. We are also working on developing some youth classes. We are looking at a free lesson program at the skate park. And we have contacted the Boys and Girls Club and hope with in the future working with them to provide some as I mentioned, some classes for the youth in Sonoma. We have also established our fundraising partnership with the Parks Foundation. Our website is in the works, but we have a preliminary version up at the moment. And that can be found at maxwellfarms.org/skatepark. And soon you will be able to find much of the information that we've been providing tonight on that website. As well, we are planning an upcoming event on July 9th that will include a contest, music, food, and local vendors at the skate park itself. And this will kick off our major fundraising efforts. On the next slide, number 7, you'll see some of our future initiatives, which we plan to a full expansion and redesign of the park, as well as coordinating with some professional builders to achieve this. We hope to develop some advocacy groups and have some further contests and demos. So on the next slide, you will see the area provided to us for expansion, and I will pass off to our design supervisor, Eric Muzzy, to explain the specifics of such.
Thanks, Nick. So here is the skate and bike park base plan. We received this from the Parks Department. You can see it's an aerial photo of the existing park. There's a dashed line showing the park expansion area. And there's also outline showing the future bike park area and a central gathering zone that would be shared by both the bike park and the skate park area. Next slide, please. Here's our concept plan overlaid on the aerial photo. We're trying to maintain a substantial portion of the original design. And the intention here is to come up with a design that's less expensive than full demolition and new construction. We're trying to work in a phased improvements, so that incremental progress is possible as funding becomes available. Next slide, please. And here you can see we've added a few notes and potential phasing boundaries to the preliminary design. Phase 1, we're envisioning as improvements to the existing park area. Phase 2 would be expansion of the park around the perimeter. We're trying to take into account the topography. You can see dashed white lines, and those are indicating existing topography on the site. So we're taking that into account as we design. The newer portion of the park would be lower, and we have the opportunity to play with that difference in grade and make the two portions of the park relate to each other. We also envision an amphitheater seating area adjacent to the top of the new area, where we're using the existing grade and envisioning putting seating that's also skatable, climbing up the hill. Another area that we're imagining is the central gathering area, which is serving both the skate and bike parks. The timing there, we would imagine, is flexible. We think that it should work well with the bike park design, so that's kind of to be determined. A couple of the features, in addition to the improvements of the existing park, would be a new beginner area. And we're hoping for a drinking fountain and restrooms to be installed near the park as well, if possible. Next slide, please. For fundraising goals, we haven't yet received cost estimates, but we set a preliminary goal of $250,000 for the project. We're trying to break it down into phases that are roughly half each, so $125,000 per phase. As Nick mentioned, we have a fundraising partner now in the Parks Foundation, and we're anticipating continuing to use volunteer labor to reduce costs. We've already worked together to remove the fence and do some repairs like Nick mentioned. So we're looking to reduce costs in that way wherever we can. Next slide. And that's the end of our presentation. I don't know if there's questions or comments at this point.
Very exciting. Super, super exciting. Thank you. Our youth needs something. That's very, very, very grateful. So we'll have comments and from the council, and then we'll go to public comment. Hannah?
Yeah, are you able to get any Measure M money as part of the redo of Maxwell Park, or are you fundraising for all your costs? And thank you, it looks great.
Yes, we will be fundraising for our costs. Measure M funds, if I'm not mistaken, have been allocated towards new projects at Maxwell. And being that the skate park already exists and it would constitute a renovation, that we would not be eligible for those funds.
Thank you. Just the fence coming down was an amazing sight to see. So thank you. Any other comments from council? All right, we'll go to public comment.
I don't see any raised hands other than Hannah. Do you still have a? Okay. So no raised hands, Chair Turi.
Well, I believe that, oh, Jesus.
And just, I would just like to add that it is very exciting that the skating was incorporated in the Olympics. So I would like to just reaffirm or reassure or advocate for all of our youth to that our youth that skates to pursue the best in that field and really center that skate park as a center for recreation and happiness, and like you say, a outlet of positive and creativity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. Eric and Nick, will you come back and tell us your progress as you move along with this effort, and anything we can do to be supportive as well, if there's something that you can think of that the council can help you with?
Certainly, yes, we would love to. And thank you very much for your offer to help. And we will, I'm sure, try to take you up on that any opportunity we have.
Thank you. I think we have another public comment, which I'm going to go back to, and then we'll finish with Hannah.
Mario, go ahead.
Good evening, Territory and members of the MAC. Very pleased to be here tonight. Yeah, this is, I mean, I totally agree with Territory. This is a very exciting project. I really like the potential in it. I just want to, I want to echo Jesus's comment in terms of making sure that this is a true community effort where, there is consideration to include all the groups that represent the demographics of our community, all the groups that could potentially not only benefit from it, but could also be part of the planning process. The disenfranchised, oftentimes, forgotten, and we tend to kind of like move along and create things that where we don't necessarily include or take advantage the opportunity to really engage the community, and then to allow for ownership and from the get-go, from the beginning. So that would be just my comment. Trying to stay positive and to really encourage all the potential. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mario. Hannah, would you like to?
Yeah, I was just wondering, we saw those very, very beautiful skate parks in other nearby towns. How did they pay for them, if you know?
I believe it's definitely depends municipality to municipality. It is a bit more nuanced for us, I believe, because we are on county property. I know Sebastopol had civic funds that they were able to allocate to their park. I can't necessarily speak for Napa or St. Helena. I do know that a large part of all three of the parks was definitely individual donors who brought enough attention to the cause. Beyond that, I don't know too many more specifics.
Thank you.
Thank you. Iris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it seems like although it's a county park, it's technically in the city of Sonoma. Have you thought of approaching the city of Sonoma for funding? Thanks.
As far as I'm aware, it is actually outside of city lines. I believe it's right on the edge. And it was originally funded by the city, and they leased a property from the county. We do hope to ask the city for some funding, but as far as I'm aware, it is actually on outside of the city on county property.
That's interesting. Thank you. Okay. Thank you again, Nick and Eric, and we appreciate your time and the energy and that you're including community and some positive activities for our youth. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And any additional community inquiries, we can be reached at vomparkriders@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to move on to our ad hocs. I believe our first ad hoc is the outreach ad hoc. Hannah and Jesus, do you have any updates?
Yeah, Karina, can you show our slides? Is that, thank you.
Just give me 1 second.
Thank you.
All right, quick question. Which one are you starting with?
Let's just do compost really quick.
Okay. It's starting up. Bear
So
with me. I
we
have
did
so
this-
many screens. Sorry, I
I'm
have so
so
many
sorry.
screens up, and
I'm
my
so,
computer has been on.
okay, maybe I can do it.
No, I can
Oh,
do it.
okay.
It's just
Okay.
slow. I just
Sorry.
want everyone to know it's slow. Sorry, and let me share screen.
So this is kind of a redux, and I apologize. I tried to translate myself, so if it's really off, that's me. Oh, wait, did you fix it for me, Karina? I don't know. You did. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we did another creek cleanup, or well, we did another compost giveaway and a creek cleanup on April 16th. Little bit of rain that day, so it wasn't as like wildly attended as the first one. But we still gave away 20 cubic yards of compost, which was incredible. And let's see, can we go to the next slide? This was at Larson Park. So Map Your Neighborhood, Dana came out, Sonoma Ecology Center helped us with some free food for volunteers. Seth at the Garden Park and the Springs Hall helped us with some more plants to give away. So we've got our lettuces right there. And then the new Sonoma Springs Rotary came and helped with the creek cleanup. So it was just a great day. We also had some free trees, some native California trees that were donated by the garden park in Sonoma, the 7th Street Garden Park. And that pictures all the trash. We got a ton of trash, weird stuff out of the creek. So it was really nice to get that stuff out before it gets, either embedded in the creek or taken out to the ocean. So, and there's some Rotarians. Just a big thank you to everyone who came together to make this a great event. And I think I might do another compost event in the future because the compost is free and it's great and it's from our green bins. So thank you to everyone who made this a good day.
Thank you. Is there anything else in outreach?
I've got some slides about our day at Dia del Niño that I can share.
Okay.
Okay.
Karina, you're muted.
Sorry, I was saying that I don't know what is going on with my PowerPoint presentations. Normally, you're able to view them in slideshow mode, but it's not working like it normally would. So I apologize.
It's okay. We got it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Dia del Niño was a family resource fair that we did at, or well, other people did, I showed up at the Hannah Boys Center. It was a windy day, but if you can go to the next slide, you'll see us at our table. And there's the MAC, I think all of us were there that day at one point or another. And it was really about increasing awareness of the MAC as a group and as kind of a voice for the community and a liaison between the community and the county. So next slide. It was really, most people did not know who we were. So kind of starting from zero, but it was a really great way to get out in the community. And the one thing you'll see on our last slide, the one area that I really think we have an opportunity for is better branding. I mean, as you can see, other people, when you walk up to their booth, you're like, I know who they are. Even if I don't know what they are, we know we've got Art Escape, Lulu Center, or a therapy and education group called Humanidad. So I would really like for us to look at our opportunities for improving how we show up at events like this as we continue to go back out into the community in person. It's important to show up and look a certain way. We are representing the county. So that's something I want to bring up. But thank you. That's it.
Yes, I agree. 100%. We need some branding. We need some swag. Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to present really quickly on, and then we'll take public comment at the end on what the art ad hoc has been doing. So the art ad hoc, it was Avram and me. Now it's me, and Karina has been super, super helpful. And we have tried a number of things to create some kind of art projects in the Springs. And we have been met, it's in my report, we have been met with many, many obstacles. It's either Caltrans or there has been some kind of obstacle that has been put in the way of an art project until we found the transportation folks. And Karina connected us with the transportation folks, and they are willing to, they came out and looked at the entire Springs area, the bus routes, and there are 31 bus stops in the valley, and they looked at the ones specific to the Springs, and they are going to help us put bike racks at 50% of the stops. 50% of the stops we can have bike racks that will maintain the ADA space required. And there's a report, and I'll show you a couple of the stops that they've identified. I'm not going to go through all of them, but these bike racks, then they're going to send us one in advance, and that we can contact some local artists to come up with some ideas on how we are going to beautify these bike racks that will sit at the bus stops in the Springs. So this is the placement of, again, there's 31 stops, about 50%. I think they identified 16 that will be able to accommodate bike racks that will stay out of the way of ADA. And we also talked about some benches. So there may be some benches as well. Very exciting. There is a report, and I'll just show you a couple. It's Sonoma County Transit, and Brian was super helpful. So the one stop that you all recognize is near La Michoacana, where the testing site was. And that is the first spot that is most likely to be able to accommodate a bike rack. There's another near Sonoma Cinemas, and this one I think is on Verano Main Street. So these squares that you see identified as where the bike racks will sit. So we're very excited about this, and the art ad hoc is about to disband. So we were able to get a project in, even though it has taken quite some time to get to this, but very grateful for the work of Sonoma County Transit and Karina's support to make this happen. So there'll be more on that. We'll have some community input and some project time once we figure out the best way to beautify the bike racks. So that is our report on the art ad hoc. The next one is community voice and town hall. And after some conversation with a couple of folks, we talked about doing a town hall. And one of the things that we are possibly considering maybe now, because after Dia de los Niños and how well attended that was, and just kind of the joy that was in the air that day, we're talking about maybe doing an outdoor event in Larson's Park, and we provide some opportunity for community feedback, but that we have something a little more celebratory in combination with an outreach and input opportunity. So that's kind of we'll have more information on that as we move forward, and get your feedback on that. And if you have any comments now, happy to take them, but that's kind of the current thinking. So those are the ad hocs. We'll take comment from council, and then we'll go to public. Okay, seeing none from council, we'll move to public. Is there, oh, Karina.
I'm not part of the council, Chair Turi, but I do have a comment. To Hannah's point about physical appearance or physical presence of the spring SMAC, I completely agree that at the bare minimum, the MAC should have a table of its own and a couple of chairs, a banner, a tablecloth, and be prepared with a tent. So those are things that had not presented because we were in COVID and we were all stuck at home Zooming to this meeting. But next steps would be for the council to discuss those opportunities and agree on what it is that you want. If you want a banner, the dimensions of the banner, do you want it to hang on your tent if you're going to have a tent, or do you want it in front of your table? What do you want on it? Do you want the logo? Do you want the Springs Municipal Advisory Council spelled out? You have to agree on all those things and colors and whatnot. Same thing with tablecloths. Do you want a general, white or generic white tablecloth? How big do you want the table? You also got to think about sort of purchasing evergreen products that can be used in future events and appropriate for most all events. So again, the process here is for the council to discuss what it is that you want and need, identify the opportunity to finance it through your budget, and your fiscal year is ending at the end of June. New budget is coming up, and I know you're having a huge discussion about your budget. And then approve what it is that you want as a council. So just letting you guys know the process and letting the community know. The community obviously has an input in all of this, as well as the council members. And I apologize, my birds are now inside and loving all the sounds here.
Thank you for that feedback, Karina. And we also want to know if there's any room to change the logo. So we do have some questions. We'd like to agendize this for a future agenda item to be able to have that conversation and maybe come with some samples of some options so that we can narrow things down. So we'd like that on, I know it's not future agenda item, but we would, that's definitely a request. I saw the hands go up, and sorry, did I take everybody's thunder with that? All right, I see public comment. Mario?
Yeah, in terms of branding and getting, working on that, I would encourage the council to reach out to the community to take this as an opportunity to get input, and then to use this as a vehicle to to be known by your constituent people that you represent. I mean, it was sweet to see the MAC be our neighbor, our next door neighbor at the Dia del Niño event for Comida para Todos, food for all. But yeah, it was kind of like a bit sad to see that, that there was not much happening there in terms of, attracting people to your booth. And it's sad because, it's really, you represented the Springs. It's supposed to be, something that is supported by the county. So poor presentation right there, and opportunity to get better at. So that would be just my comment. So thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. All right, I'll close that agenda item. All right. I don't think we've ever had 3 pages of notes. Okay, I'll keep moving us along. Letter writing update. So did we have suggestions on the letter, on the policy that we need to bring back for a vote?
Yes. So a couple of things on that letter writing policy that I'm going to share on my screen, and hopefully you guys can see it. This is already a public record, and this is a new draft. Anything that you see in yellow is, so first of all, just to clarify, the Springs MAC basically took the North Sonoma Valley MAC's letter writing policy and adopted the same policy with a few changes that you'll see in yellow. That's where we either added something or increased, or not increased, just added something, right? Anything you see in green is new edits that are recommended by council for your review and approval tonight.
So we added a section that said that after our letter writing, we would like an update to hear what transpired.
Correct.
Are there, so we need to reapprove?
Yes, the council needs to reapprove. If there's any more edits, then they would need to happen tonight. Otherwise, you can take a vote to adopt the new letter writing policy with the addition. And I'm just going to read it real quick for council and our community. Updates regarding the impact of the letter or any pertinent updates on said topic will be made to the Springs MAC through the supervisor's office. To ensure updates are made in a timely manner, a standing agenda item, example, SMAC letter follow-up, will be on each agenda.
Thank you. Are there questions, or can we move to approve? We've seen the letter, we've seen the policy, we're just adding the follow-up. Is there a motion to?
I'd motion to approve it.
Hannah, a second?
Second.
Jesus, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, letter writing policy passes. I want to give a quick, Hannah, Karina, do you want me to give the update on the Caltrans letter and the?
Sure, or I'm happy to read it, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so based on this new policy, you guys did request updates on your previous letters of support, one of them being the SAFE team and Caltrans letters of support. For Caltrans, first of all, we want to thank the community for taking the time to participate in social media posts and signing the petition for traffic safety improvements. Last month, we approved a letter, or last month, the MAC approved a letter to Caltrans and copied the Board of Supervisors, Sonoma County Transportation Authority, government officials, and others. The response has been positive from everyone that was included in the letter. And as you heard earlier, Supervisor Gorin is working with Caltrans and Transportation and Public Works. On April 29th, Adrian Levy, representative of Caltrans, District Branch Chief Traffic Safety, he responded saying thank you for the inquiry on behalf of the Springs Municipal Advisory Council regarding traffic safety upgrades to Route 12. Specifically, the requests are for improvements to Route 12 Verano Avenue Main Street intersection, more crosswalks between El Verano and Agua Caliente, and a bike lane along Darnold corridor. So they are currently investigating these requests and will respond further in approximately 3 weeks around May 19th or 20th. I have added a reminder on my calendar to personally reach out to them, and I wanted everyone here to know. In regards to your SAFE team response letter, or letter of support rather, Supervisor Gorin, I asked Supervisor Gorin for guidance on this. She did indicate that it's a board decision and the county is reviewing how programs work in Petaluma and Sonoma. We do have a mobile support team in the Valley. She recommended to invite Lieutenant Piccinini to give an update to the MAC on public safety issues, the mobilization of the mobile support team, process when a call is received, etc. So it's up for the MAC for consideration. And that is the update on those 2 letters that you previously wrote. Thank you.
Thank you. I really would like to know more about the mobile support team that's in the Valley. I'm not sure that I know what that is. So whoever Lieutenant Piccinini is, I think he should come and talk to us. Are there any comments from council? We'll go to public comment if not. Any comment from the public on the Caltrans update or the SAFE team update? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, I do appreciate, oh, there is, okay. Mario?
So I guess I'm the only one who's going to be making public comment tonight, which, I'll I'm happy to represent the public tonight. Yeah, so in terms of the SAFE program, I recently became part of the in-response program in the city of Santa Rosa, which I'm very grateful for. I'm learning a great deal, and it's a great opportunity. It's a great model, and I would also love to learn more about, what sort of services similar to that are being offered here in the Valley. I think that again, we are so isolated. We're lacking so many resources, especially on the mental health aspect of things. I know that there is this group of people organizations who are coming together to seek out ARPA funds to create programs that would potentially address some of the challenges that we have been facing for many years here in the Valley. And it's very unfortunate that only when there are tragedies or when there is money, organizations, community leaders seem to show interest, but yet we continue to just struggle and have challenges that are not addressed or that are not properly addressed, or that not are just people falling through the cracks. So I would love to learn more about that. So if someone could there's a presentation, or someone could there's a place that someone can guide me to so that I can learn more about it, I would love to get that information. So thank you.
Yeah, we will be inviting someone to report. So thank you, Mario. Celeste, I think, hands up. I'm sorry, I'm having a terrible time seeing between the mic and the little icon. It's so tiny, I can't see him. So Celeste.
Yes, hi. Yeah, I would love if the SAFE team could actually come and do a presentation. I know as a non-attorney education advocate, I actually recently sat in an IEP team meeting where the SAFE team was actually brought up as part of a safety plan with a school district who utilizes them on the schools, which led to a lot of questions, because now we're talking about students with disabilities and wondering sort of about the qualifications of the SAFE team members and what type of training that they've had in working with individuals who have disabilities, as well as mental health disabilities. Sometimes people have multiple needs happening at the same time, and so I think that that's a really important discussion to have. I don't know if our district here in Sonoma Valley is utilizing them. I think that would be a good question to ask. I agree with Mario. We are a very isolated area that tends to sort of get services last. And I think the SAFE team is a really important service, but I think that when we're talking about implementing it with children and implementing it with people with disabilities, it opens up a lot of questions about people's certifications and their trainings, and sort of understanding better the qualifications of those members of the team. So I would love to see them come to the MAC and present and be open to answering some questions in that area.
Thank you, Celeste.
Chair Terry, I just want to real quick, the Springs MAC did receive a presentation from the SAFE team in January. That information is available on the Springs MAC page for anyone interested, but it's up to the council if you want to re-invite them.
Well, I would like, I know this isn't, we're not at future items, but we are on this letter.
I made note of Lieutenant Piccinini. And
that's the first I'm hearing of it. So it would be great to know exactly what that is, so we know what's being offered in Sonoma Valley. Then we can take the information that we did receive from the SAFE team and compare it to what is being offered, and maybe choose to write another letter, or we'll see. But I'd like to hear from, and do we know if that's police department or sheriff? Do you have a sense of that?
The mobilization team that Supervisor Gorin mentioned to me is through the sheriff's department, and that's who Lieutenant Piccinini is with. So that's who I would reach out to.
Okay, that's who we'd like to hear from next, if that's the service provided in the Valley. Thank you. and to the comments made by the public to make sure that we're including those questions for them. Okay. Great. Thank you. We're going to close that item. And we're moving on to the SVCAC because we all love that topic. So Hannah went to the April 27th meeting. So Hannah's going to provide us with a report, and then we're going to decide what we're going to do with this seat. We have 3 options, and I'll share those with you after this.
Give me 1 second. I need to get my notes up.
Do you want a minute?
Yeah. Can you talk about something else for a second?
Sure. So we do have 3 options. Karina, do you want to share those on the screen so people can see them visually? Because I think that's helpful, because this is kind of I'm confused by it. So
it's a big topic, and I have a presentation prepared that I can absolutely share on screen. I feel like this, council has dedicated, this is the 3rd meeting that you have this item on the agenda. So I'm hoping that the council is familiar with who SVCAC is and what the jurisdiction is and why it's important to have the liaison position. However, there are different options that you guys can explore. First option is, so currently the Springs MAC bylaws indicate that one of your seats needs to be filled by an SVCAC member, and they are a voting member because you don't have land use. So this liaison individual listens or hears all the projects that come before SVCAC, will let you know the outcome of those projects, and they'll also hear, future projects that are coming before them. So those future projects are the important part. Sorry, my birds again. They'll come to you and say, for example, okay, we're going to be hearing a project about improvements, and this is legitimate. It's going to be coming up at the May 25th meeting. They'll come to you and say, we're going to hear a project update or about the raceway, right? They're doing some improvements to their garages, which could increase event opportunities for them, which means increased traffic for the valley. So this may be a topic of interest to you. If traffic is overflowing into the valley, what does that mean for traffic in the Springs, right? So you may have an opinion on this project. So as a council, you would decide if you want to recommend to SVCAC that they recommend to approve this project before the Planning Commission. So you would tell this liaison individual, this is how we feel about this project. Please represent us and say, yes, we approve it, or no, we don't approve it. Then the liaison goes back to SVCAC and gives that report, and they'll consider the Springs MAC's recommendation. That's the main role of that individual. So as it stands, there are only 4 individuals based on your MAC boundaries that could fill that position. And as we all know, that position has been vacant for quite a while. So your options are, one is to eliminate the SVCAC requirement completely and just make it an at-large alternate seat, right? So it does not need to be someone from SVCAC. Anyone from the public can apply to that position, and you will not have a liaison representing you, which is okay. So what you would need to do as a council, if you're interested in projects that are coming before the SVCAC that could potentially affect the Springs community, you as a council could decide individually to attend those meetings, and you could decide to report back to the MAC or not if you just have a personal interest and you attend. Or you could volunteer an individual from the MAC council and rotate it. It's really up to you. The second option is to keep the seat as it is and continue to wait for the SVCAC to appoint someone. And I know that the MAC has done everything in its hands to accommodate them, changing your meeting a couple of times and being very patient in waiting for them to appoint. Third option is to keep the SVCA seat. However, allow them to choose a primary member and 2 secondary members. In case the primary member cannot attend your MAC meeting, they could send one of the secondary or one of the 2 secondary members. You will also need to clarify, if you do keep the seat, if you want to expand the boundaries of the SBCAC member to be anybody on the SBCAC or only those that live within the MAC boundaries. And those are your options. I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
And I'm ready when you're ready for me to give my.
So why don't we
update.
do the voting and then we'll have you do the update.
Okay.
Iris, did you have a question?
I do. One question I have, and I'm wondering, are the people who are being considered for appointment to the MAC, is the possibility that they could be the liaison, being part of the consideration of those people?
I'm not clear on your question, Iris.
Okay, I understand there are a number of applicants for the MAC that are being considered and interviewed. Does the possibility that they would be able to serve on the CAC have any bearing on whether? Okay, thank you.
No, so that's a great question and it has come up before. So currently, it's not the MAC who appoints someone to SBCAC, it's SBCAC who appoints someone for the MAC. That's the way it works. Because keep in mind, SBCAC has been here for many years. It's an established commission. The MAC has only been in existence 3.5 years.
Yeah, no, I do. I've kind of watched the CAC. The other question I have, I don't understand when you were explaining about the person, the liaison coming to us and telling us there's going to be a project coming up and that would affect the springs, your example, the raceway expanding. We would do that before the presentation to the CAC, because in my experience of watching the CAC, they have well, of course they get materials ahead of time, but they look at all this and then they take a vote. They wouldn't be waiting for us to come tell them what we thought should happen.
Fortunately for the Springs MAC, your meetings take place before theirs. So for example, tonight, if you had pre-agendized to discuss SBCAC projects, if you had the liaison would provide their update and say, hey, in 2 weeks on May 25th, we're going to hear about the raceway. How do you guys feel about it? You guys discuss it, take a vote. The liaison will then report to them. And again, fortunately for you, your meeting takes before theirs. I
get that. I do understand that part. What I'm not understanding is that would the liaison have full access to all of the materials that were going to be presented, but except of course the presentation.
Just like you receive material for the Springs MAC, they receive material for the SBCAC projects that go before them. And if you've attended a SBCAC meeting, and when we did have the MAC SBCAC liaison, they do have those updates, and they can, when you're hearing the project, they do ask for council comments. So during your comment, if you were the liaison, you would say, at the May 11th MAC meeting, the MAC discussed it and they're concerned about the improvements at the raceway. So can we please, they voted against it, or they voted for it, or their recommendation is to not approve this project.
What I'm looking at is that they receive a lot of information and we would be receiving a little.
Right. Keep in mind, you don't have land use, and you do have access to those reports. Any member of the public can access any of those materials if you go on the SBCAC website. It's not the greatest. It's kept by the city of Sonoma, but the materials all are available. And, you know, our office does everything it can to upload any material, agendas 2 weeks in advance. We technically shouldn't, you know, we technically don't have to upload everything or post, you know, 72 hours in advance is our time frame, but we like to do it 2 weeks in advance. If I don't receive presentations in advance, unfortunately, I can't send them to you, but we technically have 72 hours within those 72 hours to post and update.
We're going to take a timeout. Jordy needs a 5-minute break. So we're going to come back and we're going to make a decision on the SVCA seat. We'll hear from Hannah, and then we have a couple of closing items and we'll end. So it is 9:17. We'll come back in 5 minutes, 9:22. Thank you. Thank you to all the folks in the audience who are still with us. That's great. So we're going to do, Iris, did you get your questions answered? Okay. Are there other questions from council before?
You mean question or suggestions?
Questions right now, because then we'll go to public comment and then I can come back and we can make a motion or suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to public comment.
I don't see raised hands. I'm waiting. Nope.
All right, Jesus.
Well, my suggestion is more about a solution to the problem of somebody attending the CAC meetings. We need somebody to go there, and we are very limited who can go. So I'm proposing that maybe for the future agenda, we can discuss about expanding the boundaries of the springs so that we can have more people, and that we can include more people in the springs that could or will be able to attend the meetings and be our liaison. Other than that, I like the idea of having a primary deputy liaison to the SVCAC and two secondary attendees. So that is my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just going to say that goes kind of along with what Fred was suggesting to us earlier in his public comment about the boundaries of the MAC. So to that point, that's something we should explore. And then I'll take Hannah's comment, but would you like to motion that it become a primary and two secondary? Jesus?
Well, that is my point of view. I don't know others, so.
Okay, we'll see if we can get a second.
Okay.
Hannah, did you have a question?
You're on mute.
Thank you. It was more of a comment based on my time, at taking notes and seeing the SVCAC and seeing how the North Valley MAC has, not a liaison. I mean, they have a member who is on both councils, and that just gives them, it's a prestige position to be on the SVCAC, to put it honestly. And the insight, the power, the connection that you will have gives an element of prestige also to the North Valley MAC that we do not have, because we do not have a liaison. So I just wanted to point out that reality to everyone who, and I'm sure most of us are aware of that, but the reality is that there's a level of prestige and power of having a member who is on both committees, and it lends gravitas to the North Valley MAC that we do not have. So I know we haven't been able to find a solution. So hopefully we find a solution tonight, but any of the solutions we're picking tonight will not give us that same prestige that comes with having a member who's actually a member of both groups. So just putting it out there on the record.
Hannah, if I may, Chair Turi, I want to clarify, we've been using the term liaison, but they would be a member of the MAC as well as the member of SBCAC. The reason we use liaison is because they go back and forth, so they're informing both councils, but it is currently, as your bylaws state, they are an active voting member of the Springs MAC. So the other option is to keep them as a voting member, or just have the seat, make them an alternate so they don't have voting rights, or, you know, it's really up to you. That's what you guys need to discuss and decide on and vote on today.
So I agree with you, Hannah. There's definitely prestige that's attached to that council that is not attached to the MAC. We've heard it a number of times, even just this evening. So I personally do not want to let go of the seat. And initially, because we had gone back and forth so many times, I was at the point where I'm out of solutions, so just give it up. But I've heard there's too much importance with this. So we do need to hold on to the seat. And to Jesus's point, I think it does need to, if an alternate, or not an alternate, but a primary and a secondary keeps the seat, and we have somebody attend our meeting, then I believe that's the direction that we should go.
Okay, was that a motion?
I think it, well, maybe Iris hasn't said anything, so I'm kind of wondering what she thinks.
This is really tough. And I know that, you know, I recognize that the CAC is more prestigious and all that. And it is not a good idea to let go of that, but we're pretty strapped at the moment. And then that's also a concern. I do think a primary and a secondary is a good idea. I think 3 might be a little too crazy.
Okay. Karina, did you want to say something else?
I want to say something. Yes, absolutely. I want to make sure that the community knows and this council knows that the CAC is completely different. The makeup of it, I mean, there's 19 council members. It's a joint powers of authority, you know, commission with the city of Sonoma. And I understand what you're saying about prestige, Hannah, but also they're not out in the community, and the Springs MAC is. I think that you guys were criticized a little bit today for the lack of physical, you know, presence, and the lack of materials. And again, you haven't had those opportunities. If you had those opportunities 2.5 years ago, you would be at the level of everybody else in the community. But this was your first event where council members attended. So it's an opportunity to learn and improve, right? That being said, the Springs MAC has a completely different role in the community, and you're making yourselves be known, and you're making a presence in the community. You're making a difference, and you're being impactful. And it shows by the, you know, the amount of people that we had today. I know it's winding down, but the amount of people that came today, the type of presentations that you're receiving, and I don't want to discourage you guys, because you are an amazing council. And I'm getting emotional because I work with you guys and I know the hard work that goes into this, but please don't like minimize the work of the MAC. And
well, we don't have to minimize it. People minimize it for us. I mean, we don't have to be the ones who minimize it. Other folks are doing it for us. So, you know, but Karina,
thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. We really appreciate it, because this is a hardworking group of folks, and I'm just honored to sit among them. And I really hope that other people, particularly our county officials, recognize that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, you know, like I said, you guys actually have to go out into the community and hear community engagement. You know, the CAC basically gets all the reports that have already been done and they read them and they just make a decision one day. I'm not saying that's not important because they have to be extremely knowledgeable in what they're reading, but it's a different type of work. So please feel proud of serving on this council and all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah, did you want to say something else?
Can we see the choices again? Can we see the choices slide? Thank you. And I guess I'm just saying, okay, so I still think I like the third choice. I still almost like the idea of one of us attending.
Well, it doesn't stop us from doing that.
Yeah. Okay. I think
it doesn't stop us from doing that.
So the third choice is we keep the SVCA seat and it's kind of open, and in the interim, they just report to us. Is that accurate? I would like to make a motion that we do the third option of keeping the SVCAC seat. And until it can be filled, we ask for them to report to us. And I think it would also behoove us to, as we can, attend their meetings so that we have our own take on what's going on.
So is that a motion?
Yeah, that was a motion.
Jesus, do you want to second that motion?
I do. I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Second part of that, Chair Turi, is to clarify if the primary and secondary, and are you having one primary and two secondary? Are you having one primary and one secondary?
One and one. I can't deal with, yeah, one and one.
Okay, and also if you want to expand the boundaries of the SVCAC person, so anybody from SVCAC could be appointed to the seat, or only those that live within the MAC boundaries?
Well, since we're asking them to rotate, I really think that it's important that they understand the Springs, that they have a sense of, I mean, I could go either way, but I do think that there's the other flip side of that is that somebody gets to hear about the issues and concerns of the Springs. So there is that. So I don't know, Hannah.
I think that we might get people who are more amenable to coming to report to us if they just actually want to, rather than if they're forced to. So I would like to make it more flexible and make it someone who is interested in coming and meeting with us rather than someone who must come meet with us. I would like a willing participant.
So are you suggesting that
we expand to everyone?
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Iris?
They can't make somebody do that, I think, as far as I can tell. They can't actually make anybody do it. It's that's forced labor or something like that, enslavement.
And
so
that's the reason why they haven't filled that seat, because someone needs to volunteer to take that seat, and until they do, you continue to have that vacancy. Yes.
Yeah.
Iris, I mean, wait, sorry. Iris, are you done?
I did want to point out that they're being appointed to us, not us being appointed to them. And so in terms of the prestige that comes from being on the CAC, they've already got it.
Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to kind of, it seems like that was a little fuzzy. Thank you.
Yeah. Hannah?
It's still a possibility that we do this and no one comes. Or no, they said, okay, but I thought someone was amenable to coming, probably.
We don't know.
We don't know. Okay,
but I
thanks.
do agree. I've gone back and forth with, should they stay? Should they be from the Springs? Can it be? And the pool is larger. And then maybe there is some learning that can happen about what happens in the Springs. So Karina, if we have a choice here, I motion that it be at large, that it be anyone from the council. Is there a second?
I would second that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Third
Was that a yes?
I
Jesus?
heard a yes.
Okay.
The other element, Chair Turi, and I apologize for interrupting, is if you want them to be a voting or non-voting member for the MAC. I know all these elements, and just so you know, I have to revise the bylaws.
I
So
know.
you need to agendize, and then in June, you'll review these and approve them, and then they need to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So it's a lengthy process. Yes, I know.
I don't know about that. I'm open to suggestions.
It seems.
Go ahead, Hannah, your hand's up, then Iris.
If they're not, I mean, I kind of think it would make them more involved. I mean, here's the thing is, and that would it change if they have a primary and a backup? Would either of those people be able to vote? So 2 different people for 1 voting seat? That's a little convoluted. That's a little weird.
That's where it gets complicated. And that's why you have to think, like, if you wanted the primary and secondary, because the secondary person could also live, you know, in an area where they may have some conflict of interest. They could remove themselves from the voting, right? If you make them an alternate in the event that you are down to a quorum and one of your voting members is gone for a meeting, that alternate, you know, steps in, they are able to vote. Remember, that's their role.
Okay.
I'm kind of inclined to make it an alternate.
We can make both of one. It's all alternate.
They are not. The seat is a non-voting seat. If we're going to change,
I think that makes sense, because if we're saying that it's still an open seat, the SBCA liaison seat is open and they're just reporting to us, why are they voting? They're reporting, not participating.
They'll still be here for the meeting, but
yes.
Why, yeah, but Iris, what did you want to say?
Oh, can't. I don't know. It is of concern that someone from out of the area would be voting and they could have a conflict of interest, actually.
So a non-vote primary, alternate, out in the entire SVCAC non-voting member. Do we need to vote on that again, Karina? Okay, the motion is that there's an alternate, there's a primary, a secondary, it can be anyone from the council, and it's a non-voting member. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Jesus?
I will suggest that they can be, to make it more complicated, to make them voting members when, never mind. I agree.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right. We have to look at this again. So we will have some time to reflect, but that is our current, that is our current proposal. And we have changed this. This is, I want to be done with this one.
Karina, could you send a summary to our email of what, I mean, I have it in my head, but I think it'd be nice to see what this would look like, an org chart, perhaps? Is that a pain in the butt for you to do?
A what? I'm sorry?
An organizational chart of what we would look like as a full MAC with the SVCAC liaison seat still existing, but just being reported
I'm happy to add that to future agenda items.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool to look at us as an org. Yeah, thank you. Org chart.
Okay, this item is closed. Wow. I look forward to having someone from the council be here. I'm going to open it back up. I'm looking forward to having somebody from the council be here because it is important. It is important that they're communicating with us and that we're communicating with them. So it has taken a long time to get here and there has been a lot of frustration around it, but I'm hoping that we are at a place that we can start to communicate with one another more. Oh, I can't close it. Hannah, you have to give your report.
Okay, so this would have been a perfect example of a meeting that the Springs has a lot at stake. So the meeting was about primarily Annie Philandas with Homeless Action Sonoma with her new project on Highway 12. So the project, because of some law about housing for homeless individuals, they don't have to ask for SVCAC's permission or endorsement, which oftentimes it seems is what people are doing when they're going to SVCAC, is they're asking for endorsement of their project. In this case, they kind of were just showing what was going on, and we've received a presentation from her. Things are pretty much the same. She explained why they are behind schedule. That's because PRMD requested that they do all the grading for the permanent facility before they put the temporary shelters up. So that was a lot of money that they had to get. But pretty much it's the same as what we learned from her. They're doing the temporary shelters, and then they're going to be building a permanent facility. They've just had the roadblocks of having to do all this grading first. They endorsed the project, but again, they had no ability in this case to stop it if they wanted to. And I guess I would also just note that Vice Chair of the North Sonoma MAC, Matthew Dickey, am I getting that right? He normally gives an update every meeting of what's going on at the North Valley MAC. So just something we should know. And I gave a short update about us.
I wanted to say that the CAC cannot, they can say that they approve or disapprove of a project. They cannot say that it, they can recommend it to, or not recommend it to the PRMD, but they don't have the power to actually make it happen.
Right. But in this case, I don't think, in this case, because of some law, I forget if it was like SB 133, if a facility for housing homeless people checks certain boxes, there can't be community review. So there wasn't even a chance, I think, to provide that sort of input, if that makes sense.
Yes, except that they did say that they thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, they did. They did. Yeah, they did.
That's that.
No, they supported it. Yes. Sorry if I'm unclear.
If I may, so ultimately the role of the SBCAC is to make a recommendation to the Planning Commission or the design review to either approve or not approve a project. In this case, even if they personally did not like a project, if they're against it, as long as, like Hannah said, if they check all those marks or all those boxes, they have to recommend it for approval. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah, for attending the meeting. And I know, Iris, you go too, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Before you close this item, Chair Turi, I do want to remind you, since it is going to take at least a couple of months before you officially have those bylaws in place, and maybe even longer for the SBCAC, because then they have to agendize, they have to find, who out of their members will volunteer to appoint to this position, and then a secondary member, and then they have to be appointed, and it takes a while. So you do need to have a backup plan. If it's to continue asking for an SBCAC member to come and give an update. No one showed up tonight. No one reached out to say that they were going to. You can volunteer yourselves to attend.
I'd like to request that somebody come to the next meeting to give us an update.
Okay.
And I'm sure that one of our colleagues here will likely attend, but it would be nice to have an update from the SVCAC. It would be nice for us to get to know the folks who are on that committee. Okay, thank you. Okay, MAC budget. So we're out of money. We've pretty much spent it all. I'm going to make a recommendation because we've been here for a while, and we'll see where we are, and Karina will stop me if I go rogue here, I'm sure. So I'm going to suggest that for our future budget, that our request is that our expenses are paid, which include translation. If we go back to in-person, our
facility,
note taker, and that those are our major expenses, that those are paid, and that we have an additional budget of $5,000 for events, because our community requires more support when it comes to putting on events. Dia de los Niños, there are other events that require our support, particularly in the springs. And we have a bunch of nonprofits and folks that are volunteering their time and don't have the resources. So if we can collaborate with people and then also use those opportunities as outreach like we did for Dia de los Niños, that we are able to offer that support. That's my recommendation.
Chair Turi, I do have a presentation that was requested by Vice Chair Pirot, so
Yep.
I'm ready to present it when you're ready.
Go ahead. It'll give us an idea of what the money is.
Okay. And I hope that this will work. Okay. And bear with me. I spent a lot of time putting this together for you guys.
Oh my God. Oh, Karina, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go over your annual budget, your ongoing expenses, invoices, and what is a budget request and what are the steps for a budget request. So your annual budget currently is $10,000, which covers July to June. So for example, July 2021 to June 2022. Current expenses are your minute taker, your interpreter, and broadcasting on KSBY. So up-to-date invoices received as of midnight last night. Your ongoing expenses are $9,360 paid. And you used some of your budget for community projects, which was the holiday lighting, Dia de los Muertos and Dia del Niño, so $1,239.99. So as Maite indicated, you guys are over your budget. So you're currently in the red. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that there's still unpaid ongoing expenses. So we have yet to receive invoices for your interpreter for October, December, and January meetings, as well as March, and then our April meeting. That's another $2,400. And estimated ongoing expenses for May and June I estimated at 3 hours per meeting based on the current rates. It's another $1,800. Could be less, could be more. So at this rate, you would be, close to $5,500 over your current budget. And so a little breakdown of where your budget is going. The big bulk of it is going to interpretation, and we are extremely grateful for Jordy. And I personally know how difficult it is to interpret simultaneously live. You're also spending, 27% of it is going to your minute taker, 14% to broadcasting, and 12% little bit to community projects. And this is where you want to be able to, include or increase your sponsorship opportunities. So some opportunities to reduce your expenses would be to have shorter meetings, potentially limit to only 2 items per agenda, which in addition to your administrative items, right? Broadcasting, since you're currently meeting via Zoom, we could just limit to having Zoom and Facebook broadcasting. And please know that I am in no way, shape, or form recommending these. These are options that have been explored. I'm not personally recommending these. And the third one would be to limit interpreting and only offer it if it is requested and the request is received up to 72 hours in advance of a meeting. This is the common practice of all other councils and commissions, including the ones in First District. So the North Sonoma Valley MAC and the SBCAC do not offer interpreting unless it is requested, which I find sort of like a catch-22. What came first, the chicken or the egg? If you don't know that it's offered, you can ask for it, but you don't offer it unless it's requested. The other thing would be to limit interpreting to 2 hours per meeting. And if you go over that, just know that you will not have interpreting. Most interpreting companies have a 2-hour minimum. So that would be another way. Why is my slide not going? Here we go. Did I skip one? Okay, so next, on to happier things, how to sponsor community events. As you guys have mentioned throughout the evening, you have graciously supported wonderful events. These are pictures from your events. Dia del Niño, the holiday lighting up in here. Thank you, Jesus Bravo, for the beautiful sign. The compost event, I really hope the MAC does decide to do more compost events because I could use them at home. I mentioned that to Hannah. The Neighbor Fest, where you did a lot of outreach with Map Your Neighborhood and supported the testing and boosting opportunities. And of course, Dia de los Muertos, it was a beautiful altar in collaboration with Artiscape. So how does this work? How do you sponsor an event or a community project? First, the council proposes to sponsor a community event, like any of the ones that were mentioned. So you vote on it, you decide that, yes, we do want to sponsor this event, and you also approve the amount. A community member or an organization, for example, for Dia del Niño, Victor came to your meeting and asked for sponsorship. So he could have asked for 5,000 and you only have 200, right? So you guys decide on how much you're able to support with. You identify a nonprofit organization that you can partner with. In the event, in the case of Dia del Niño, they partnered up with Sonoma Immigrant Services to be able to make that event happen, along with other organizations, but you only need to identify one for this specific event. And then you work on a budget request form and submit that budget request form to Supervisor Gorin through me. This is what a MAC budget request form looks like. It basically asks for the projects that you guys want to sponsor. What is it? You know, in this case, it was Dia del Niño. It's a community event, activities, etc. The amount that's being requested. Which area of topic, advisory topic, does it fall under? Is it transportation? Is it health and human safety? Is it a community project? Is it preparedness? Is it another? So you identify that. More importantly, how will the community benefit from this event, right? And then who is the partnering organization? You send it to your chair for her signature, but you remember you have to approve this before you can make the event happen, which means you have to bring it up at a MAC meeting. Then you submit to Supervisor Gorin, she approves it. Then we request the paperwork for payment, which is the invoice and receipt from the partnering agency. Then your event takes place, you do the outreach, you're there, you have fun, you take photos, and you bring a report back, just like Hannah and Jesus did today for their events that they participated in. So this is an example of what it would look like for Dia del Niño. The form was filled out. It's got, Cheryl signature. They asked for 500. They submitted an invoice for $500. Then when we paid it with the credit card, we have the receipt. So just to make sure everything matches. And of course, there's a cute little pictures of the kids from the event. If I'm going too fast, let me know.
Nope, keep going.
So next steps. So you can explore what your, with your ongoing expenses, what are the opportunities, A, to reduce those expenses, but also B, keep in mind, just like Cheryl mentioned, when you do go back in person, you are going to have some rental fee expenses. And if you do decide to go hybrid, that does mean expenses because you need to have the equipment to be able to provide that. Then you also discussed, or talked about having a discussion about in-person presence, right? The banner, the tablecloths, the table, the chairs, all that stuff, you're going to need money for that. So there's definitely an opportunity to request an increase in your budget to Supervisor Gorin. And then I would suggest that you make a list of events for 2022-2023 calendar that you potentially want to sponsor. What is an annual event that you see coming every year? It seems like the holiday lighting is one of them. Dia del Niño, said that they're wanting to make it an annual event. Are you wanting to do Dia de los Muertos every year? That kind of stuff. So you can really have a list of, the events and incorporate it in your request to increase your annual budget. So any questions for me?
Thank you. Iris and then Hannah.
I have comments. One, I pulled up the SVCAC to get back to them roster. My point is that we have a larger population. I'll tell you, we have a larger population to serve. We have a Latino population where we really, it seems to me, basically a moral requirement to provide translation. And I just can't see that we can cut that kind of corner. We really need more money. We deserve more money. On the CAC, the North Valley MAC has, or the North Valley has 2 seats, and altogether, the SMAC area has 5 seats. That's representing population and area, I presume. That means that that we really need more money to represent us to the and to represent our community. I just don't see how we can get around that if it's going to be equitably financed. We may all be created equal, but we don't all have equal needs.
Thank you, Iris. Hannah?
Yeah, so just want to make sure I'm reading this right. Karina, to me, it looks like our current burn rate is 15,400 a year. Okay.
And
So
that's
just putting
doing
that out there.
That's doing minimal.
That, yeah, what we're doing right now, 15,400, and that's before anything else.
Yep.
So I just wanted to put that out as our current burn rate.
Yes, we know that.
Okay, okay.
With my long experience doing household stuff, we need at least 20,000 a year,
At a minimum.
and really more, because we do need banners, and I think, considering the population of the Springs, it is imperative that we are able to offer in-person hybrid meetings. We cannot possibly expect to get a turnout. In the Springs Hall holds 200 people for a party, I think. I don't know that you can get 200 people in it if we could get the Springs Hall. If we have to go, that's totally inadequate for a good turnout, a really good turnout to a meeting. The other thing is that we have a lot of low-income people here, both in the Latino community and in the white community, that have jobs that don't make it easy, and family responsibilities that don't make it easy to get to a meeting at 6:30 and sit here till 10 o'clock at night.
That's why we have to maintain a hybrid option.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
we have expenses that the North Valley MAC doesn't have or hasn't recognized that they need, and that'll be their problem later. But we just need more money. 25,000 would be a nice budget.
So that's why I'm suggesting expenses, whatever they are, interpretation, our operating expenses with an additional 5 to, and I'm going to go up to 7,000 now, money for promotional materials, events we want to sponsor, and that our that I don't particularly want to have to worry about how much I'm spending on note taking and interpretation. Those are justice. Those are social equity issues, and they just have to happen. We have to have a note taker and we have to have interpretation. And that's just, there is no way around that. And if others don't do that, that's on them. We must. So, Karina, can you go back and find out if we can request expenses, whatever they may be? If we go back in person, whatever the rental fee is, whatever it might be. We are not unreasonable people. We're not going to spend $50,000, but we do need a reasonable budget, and that allows us to be able to support our community with events.
I would like to add that our broadcasting
Yes.
budget is exceptionally reasonable.
Yeah, that's part of it. Sorry, I keep forgetting to mention that. Broadcasting notes, possible rental, and interpretation.
So
I
haven't asked for childcare yet, but I might.
I haven't, or excuse me, so I'm happy to look into, rental fee, but I also can't look into something that I don't know where it's going to take place. For example, the Spring SMAC used to meet at Grange Hall, right? And if I'm remembering correctly, it was 150 per month, or per meeting rather.
It's not available right now, right?
It's currently not available. And so it's, you guys need to decide where you want to meet. And then I can look into how much that would be, or I can sort of get a rough estimate of other places. If you guys have recommendations of places you guys want to explore for hybrid meetings, send those to me and I can, try to find out, or if you already know, then send that information to me so I can compile it. With a hybrid meeting, again, it depends on the facility that you're going to meet, because some of them may or may not have the technology already available for you to rent, or you may need to purchase. I don't know. So that's where it gets hard for me to come forward and say, this is how much it would be for your future, rental fee expenses or hybrid meeting, but I'm happy to do as much as I can.
El Verano School, the multipurpose room seems to be an option, and it seems like we need to include Bob at SVSY if we're going to talk about this.
I'd also like to suggest the Boys and Girls Club and exploring other alternatives.
And I thought that the Grange Hall was open again. I know.
Oh, is it?
I
think that SOS is occupying it.
I know, but I heard that he was going to start renting it out again.
So the last I spoke to Seth, he said that currently they're not able to take new tenants or existing tenants, because SOS is basically taking over, and they're not quite ready to leave that premise. So they're not ready.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes. And yes, the technology aspect of this, if you're continuing to use KSVOI as your broadcasting agent, then we would need to connect with Bob. And we had a preliminary conversation a few months ago about this. So I can touch base again with Bob on what technology the Spring SMAC could use, depending on the facility, if that's even an option, or if the facility would need to have everything in place and they just show up with their camera person and broadcast or record. So I will add it to the list.
I also want to say that just in terms of labor, that it's cheesy to not confirm an interpreter until 3 days before. We're
not going to do that. That's not even a thing we're going to do. We're not even going to entertain it.
Okay.
Yeah. And just so you know, it's also very difficult. I like to have these set up. I've already sent requests to have these set up for the year. Yeah. When you guys have changed your meetings from one week to another week, I've had to resubmit all those requests, like 10 requests in advance. And even then, I mean, Jordy is here interpreting, and earlier today he was looking for the link. And even when I've already have it set up every month as a recurring meeting. So it's a hassle to reach out to the agency within 72 hours and try to set it up. Like I said, I'm personally not suggesting that. It's just an option that I had to throw out there for you guys.
Okay, so, I just wanted to say that. I understand you're not, but I wanted to just like cut it off at the knees.
So in the interest of rounding third base here, I think it's important that, Karina, you find out what our options are for budget, how flexible people are willing to be. We can come up with some suggestions for places. I mean, there is El Verano, the Boys and Girls Club, there's Flowery, there's the charter school. There are other options in our community that might work. yeah, I think that's, we need to spend some money on outreach materials. So we'll have a sense of we'll put that on the agenda coming up. So we'll know what that is. We don't have any money, but somehow it's going to happen. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. We deserve and we need to be able to support our community in ways that are different than some of the other councils.
Sorry.
Oh, I did just want to add that at the Dia del Nino, we met with a number of families who seem to be primarily or only Spanish speaking, the parents, and they were in the North Valley MAC area. And it was just a reminder that
the
what we do is important.
Madrone Road, Madrone Avenue, Madrone Street, whatever it is, that's a heavily Spanish speaking populated area.
And I'm just thinking out loud, and maybe I'm not supposed to in this capacity, but if I may, there's also an opportunity for the Springs MAC executive team to reach out to the North Sonoma Valley MAC executive team and say, hey, you don't have as many expenses as we do. How about you guys sponsor one of our events in, could we share some of that money? I will also run that by Supervisor Gorin because I don't want to speak out of, place and offer something that is not available and get everybody's hopes up. But it just in my head, I'm thinking if you both get the same budget, by the way, they also get $10,000. And I know, as it comes close to the end of the year, they're like, we need to spend this money. Where can we throw it?
They don't have much, so they are under budget drastically?
Basically, because their only expense is minute taking.
Okay.
So they're constantly looking for projects to sponsor because they don't have other expenses.
Am I going to advocate that the Springs MAC requires a higher budget? I appreciate your creativity, Karina. But we require a higher budget. And won't settle for less. And that's where we're at. Okay. Anything else on the budget issue? Any comment from the public?
The numbers are getting smaller.
I know. I know, we're killing them. We're killing them.
Well, we're still smiling.
Can't blame them.
Okay. You guys are all just gems. I just appreciate you. You're just the best. Okay. Future items.
I would like to see, I would like to see the plaza brought up and the funding for the plaza, because I have absolutely no confidence that anything that Mattson was, and whatever permutation of Mattson we would be dealing with, would actually come forward with a doable plan, an actual doable plan, and the money to do it in anything that would resemble a timely basis. Susan Gorin has said that she wants to see the plaza before she retires from being supervisor. I don't think that's possible now, given permitting, drawing plans, permitting all the things that have to fall into place, and not to mention even scarcity of materials to do something like that.
Okay, so the plaza.
The plaza.
Great. I agree.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Yes, I have suggestion. Well, the first one is that I would like that maybe we can bring somebody to talk to us about, or sponsor a e-waste event where we can let the community know about how can they dispose electronics and batteries and stuff like that. Also, ideally, I would like that we can sponsor or organize like a hauling event where people can just go and throw everything, mattresses and stuff like that. I know that there is a commission already existing that already does that, and I tried to look for the email everywhere and I couldn't find it. And I also like we talk about the redrawing the boundaries of the springs so that we can include more people into the area so that we can have a larger pool of just people that could be candidates to be on the council that could also volunteer to be members of the CAC, and also review from what we left regarding the SDC and talk about the North Valley MAC no housing proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What I picked up tonight are a community event / town hall. Lieutenant Piccinini from the mobile unit. We need an outreach material budget item or line item so we can talk about that, what that looks like. Caltrans, we want them to come back so we can apply a little persuasion. And then I found Fred's housing preservation and protection topic interesting too, and what those things might mean. And I don't know who we would get to talk to us about that. But
Generation housing maybe would be interesting. Yeah.
So that's quite a bit. We'll work to prioritize them. Are there others, Iris or Hannah?
I still like the economic growth, small business
I think
topic.
that's still on here.
Yeah, okay.
It
I
is.
just wanted to make sure that was still on there. I thought that was interesting. And specifically, I kind of wanted to talk about restaurant permitting, because there's been like a lot of restaurants in the Springs, like Westburger pretty much went under because it took them like 2 years to get a permit. Baker and Cook had a really tough time opening and getting their permit. Now my favorite restaurant in the Springs, Sonoma Eats, is not open, and I know there's some reasons why, but I need my fix. And you know, it's just, if we're talking about business and economic development, it needs to be streamlined and not so hard for these mom and pop restaurants to do their thing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
Karina.
Okay, so I just want to review and remind you, on your ongoing list of future agenda items, you do have economic growth, small businesses with EDB and the Sonoma Valley Chamber of Commerce. I will add restaurant permitting to that list. The Springs Farmers Market, Mental Health Collective with Risk and Hannah Boys Center. And what I heard today, future discussion would be to form a roads ad hoc to work on the paving. Logo edits. It looks like you guys want to work on upgrading or updating your MAC logo. In-person presence, which is outreach material. The SAFE team, it looks like you want a presentation from SAFE team. Expand.
No, well, it's the mobile, it's whatever the sheriff's doing in the valley.
Okay, so not SAFE team, the mobile support team with Lieutenant Piccinini. Okay, crossing that out. Expand the MAC boundaries, I heard. So Susie wants to discuss that. A council organizational chart. You want to be able to have a presentation on that. And then everything else that you guys just mentioned right now.
Yeah, and then there was something that you just brought to mind, but I forgot.
And I just briefly want to say that on the North Sonoma Valley MAC SDC Eldridge situation, I did check in with Hannah Whitman from our office, who facilitates the North Sonoma Valley MAC, because I did also, poke at her. I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're messing with the MAC, MAC boundaries? Because it's supposed to be, they've been established for a reason. So what she indicated to me is that it was simply symbolic. That doesn't mean that, the county is going out there and moving the lines from one section to another to realign, where Eldridge and SDC is, and is it Glen Ellen, is it Eldridge? But it's simply symbolic. So within the North Sonoma Valley MAC and those folks, they're going to call it Glen Ellen and not Eldridge. Again, simply symbolic. So just wanted to bring that up because they're not necessarily messing with the established boundaries that exist.
I wanted to say that it seems to me the difficulty with extending our boundaries up there is that we're not contiguous. There's really nothing that connects us.
So it's not,
except road.
Brown Act police here. So we have to put it on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I live the Brown Act these days. So I think we put it on the agenda and we have a conversation about it. So thank you. Symbolic or not, it's a statement and it's been made and it's out there. Yeah. So the other thing that I just remembered, Karina, is Hannah Project. Remember I had connected you with those folks and they want to come in July. We have some busy months ahead of us. Okay. It's good work though. We got a compliment tonight, y'all.
Yeah, we did.
So
from someone who knows public meetings.
Yeah. That was high praise. All right. And Karina, thank you for always making these meetings run so smoothly. And Lynn Marie, thank you. And Jordy, you're a saint. And KSVY, thank you so much for broadcasting our work. And to all of you who stuck with us, thank you. We hope you come back. They're not generally this long. This was an extraordinarily long one, but it goes with the months of May. Lynn Marie, did you have a question? No, just it's long. I know. I'm sorry. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jesus. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Anna, and Iris thirds and I fourth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Great
all.
job, everyone. Bye.
Bye.